in that Atlanta region is going to help them. Guys?
All right, Tom, thank you so much.
It's
We've
over.
got guests over at our insiders desk today, and we also want to ask them what they're thinking of some of these early returns. We're starting to see some themes come out. We've got Cornell Belcher, we've got Mark Lauder. Cornell, I'll ask you what you think about what Tom just talked about. You had the story in Miami-Dade where it's potentially a big victory in that county, signs perhaps that that outreach to the Hispanic vote is working for Donald Trump, and yet in Georgia you're starting to see some of that suburban vote really being ramped up for Kamala Harris.
No, I think that's right. Look, Florida is I think the campaign I worked on, the Obama campaign, we've not invested and worked Florida well. And Florida's like a country. It's really big, expensive state. I think we've taken those resources and we've moved them more to battleground states like Georgia and North Carolina, where you see a sort of a difference. But Florida, you know, it's a state that Democrats did not invest a lot of money in, did not run a lot of advertising in.
Yeah, didn't do shit.
And it shows.
Let me bring in Mark Lauder, Director of Strategic Communications in the Trump 2020 re-election campaign, former spokesperson for Vice President Pence. Mark, give us your view as we wait for a call in North Carolina. What is the Harris camp right now thinking?
Right now, they're looking at turnout. I think, and really for both sides, it's going to be all about turnout. Do you get your voters out? I've seen some, and heard anecdotally from some of my colleagues on the campaign that turnout is not where it needs to be.
68% North Carolina
for Kamala Harris. It's overperforming in some of the rural areas, including the hurricane impacted areas. So I think that's a good sign for President Trump. We're going to have to see how that plays out. Another thing I'm watching, and I know Tom alluded to it with Miami-Dade.
Trump is fucked.
I also looked at Hillsborough County, Tampa Bay in Florida. It was both Hillary and Biden, both a +7. Right
That's
now,
the rig.
it's
It's getting rigged, guys.
+1.
And Hillary Clinton actually did some campaigning there for this particular election as well. Mark and Cornell, thank you. We'll be back early and often as we go along here.
And we will take a break here. I think we're going to come back with more on the make or break state of Pennsylvania as the polls get
2%
ready to close
Trump,
there.
it's over. Yep, that's right. 2% in. Let me see where we're at. I'll do a refresh just in case.
Our Republicans, we're doing really well. If you're in line, stay in line. Don't let them take you off that line. Vote. Stay in the line. They can't do anything about it. And vote. We're going to win it big. Thank you.
We're going to win it big. All right. Let's see where we're at on the next one here. Yeah. 23-3. It's not looking good for Kamala Harris. It could be over. Guys, this might be it. Trump is already back up to 65% on Polymarket. Who'd you vote for? I didn't vote. I thought that they were both clowns, so I didn't want to vote for them. Straight up. That's really what it is. Yeah, I didn't vote. I'll tell you this, it'd probably be better for me if Trump wins, because I have to pay less taxes. You really staying up all night for this? No, I'm staying up all night jerking off. Yeah, I might pay attention to the election too, but not really why. Yeah, no, I mean, but I'll be awake, yeah, for sure. I was too lazy to vote. Yeah. Who would you prefer to win? Like on a personal level, it would definitely be better for me if Trump wins. Like, absolutely, it'd be better. However, what would be better for like the country? I really can't say. That's why I didn't want to vote. Yeah. That's why I didn't want to vote. Here we go. Let's get to it. Trump, we're going to find out.
We're back with our election night coverage, and with Tom Yamas at the big board talking about the road to 270, waiting for North Carolina right now. The polls closed there. But how important is that to either candidate in terms of making their path to 270 easier or tougher?
Yeah, let's start with former President Trump, because he really needs to hold North
Trump
Carolina.
is 65% on Poly Market?
He won in 2020.
No way.
So let's give him North Carolina. If he holds North Carolina, he flips Georgia and Pennsylvania, he gets to 270. That's his easiest path. But Lester, if he can't win North Carolina, his whole map changes. And why do I say that? Because he can no longer win just 3 states. He has to win 4. He can do it by winning Pennsylvania and Georgia and keeping the blue wall, or I should say tearing down the blue wall, Michigan and Wisconsin. If he can't go there, he has to go
tear
out
down
west
the wall. No, he's supposed to build the wall.
in Arizona. That puts him over the top. But again, without North Carolina, for his scenario, he needs 4 states.
Harris has put a lot of money and time and people on the ground in North Carolina. What does it do for her?
Well, look, if she wins these 16 electoral votes, it eases some pressure off her, right? Because her easiest path is the blue wall. If she can win Pennsylvania and North Carolina, look how close she is. She only needs 9 more electoral votes.
builds the wall,
Pretty
idiot.
much any other state, with the exception
we build the wall.
of Nevada,
Mexico
gets
pays
her there
for it.
if she's able to win there. So if she can take North Carolina, the Trump team gets much more nervous, and the Democrats become much more optimistic because she's won out east. If she can win in the Midwest and pick off a state out west or hold it, she's going to be the president.
All right, Tom, let's go back to Savannah.
We talk a lot about the blue wall. Wisconsin is a big part of it, and our
all right, at 66%
in Milwaukee with some breaking news, and it's a possible issue with absentee ballot counting. Hey, Shaq, what do you know?
Hi there, Savannah. I want to first start with what we're seeing at these polling locations, because locations are open for about another hour. I want to let you go inside. I can't go inside and report, so I'll let our camera go inside there now, where we've seen a steady flow of people. At this location, there was a line that went on for more than an hour this morning. You see things have slowed down a bit. The reports from around the state is that the vote process is going smoothly, but where we are seeing hiccups is with the vote counting. We just learned from the clerk in Milwaukee downtown, where they are counting all of the absentee ballots and early votes at once, that the city of Milwaukee had to restart the processing or counting of those absentee ballots. They say an observer saw that while the ballot tabulators were sealed, the door wasn't properly closed on them, and after going through with the bipartisan team and making sure that nothing was tampered with, the city, out of an abundance of caution, decided to restart counting all of those absentee ballots. What this means is that as we expect results from this battleground state of Wisconsin, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. The clerk said in the past that they weren't expecting results from this city to come until after midnight Central Time. We now believe that timeline has shifted 2 to 3 hours later into the night. There's more than 100,000 ballots that those clerks are going to have to work through. So the vote is still ongoing right now, but be prepared to wait as those results come in later tonight, guys.
All right, Shaq Brewster in Milwaukee. We're used to waiting for Milwaukee until the wee hours of the night. I want to go back to the table here. Hallie, you've been looking at some of the exit polls. I think you've got some North Carolina information and some interesting results.
So there's some conventional wisdom here, and then there's some data that flips the conventional wisdom on its head. So let's talk about that, specifically as it relates to these age groups. We know, right, the Biden coalition in 2020 that propelled him to the White House involved young voters, right? And for our purposes, young is 18 to 29. In North Carolina, and I want to show you here, you can see that for older voters, and I'm talking senior vote here, former President Trump won those older voters. That is not unexpected. His campaign has long thought that he would do well with seniors. But here's what's interesting. Look at Vice President Harris. She's got 47% of the senior vote. She's doing better than President Biden did with seniors in 2020 in North Carolina. So she is
because the seniors knew he was fucking cooked.
Then you look at that youth vote, right? Again,
68%.
Not unexpected that Vice President Harris would have a
up
slight lead. And I would
2%.
say this is very close.
Jesus.
We are waiting for more numbers to come in, more of these waves as they're called from the exit polls, but still interesting. But again, look at 48% for former President Trump. He is outperforming among young voters in North Carolina. So you have that kind of conventional wisdom. They're overall sort of winning the groups, at least to a degree that we thought they'd win. But each of them are overperforming on the sort of flip end of that.
All right, well, Savannah Sellers is here to talk about a huge role that the youth vote could play in the outcome of this election. What have you been seeing? You've been tracking a lot of the polls leading up to tonight.
Yeah, I absolutely have. And first, I want to dig in a little further on North Carolina and what Hallie just said, because if we dig even deeper in and we talk about gender in that under 30, it's similar to the trends that we've been discussing. Trump has improved what he did with young men tonight. 60% in our NBC News exit poll there say they support him. That is up from 42% that voted for him in 2020. Whereas with Harris, she's performing even better than Biden did with women. 65% saying that they support Harris in this exit poll.
I wonder why.
And 58% actually supported
Is that just North
Biden.
Carolina, or is that a national
That's just
poll?
North Carolina. That's our North Carolina exit polling tonight. North Carolina is really interesting to me because I've been talking with college Democrat and Republican presidents on campuses there.
Yeah.
But the college Democrats were so organized in this state. Like, what they did on these campuses was really amazing. They lobbied the state to have more polling places on campuses. They even had it be made that the student ID could be an acceptable form of ID on several campuses, which was not the case prior. We're also seeing this kind of play out to be right what we're seeing with that young men appeal for Trump seems to be working in some places.
Yeah,
I'm
duh.
interested to
He
see
was
if
on
that
Joe
continues
Rogan.
throughout the night. We heard Gotti mention like those podcast appearances earlier in the night.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan, Logan Paul, things like that.
Logan
This
Paul,
seems
that's
to be
right.
where he is gaining that ground. I'm interested to see if it continues in other battlegrounds.
And just underscoring how important the young vote is, the Harris campaign tonight touting the fact that they have Paul Rudd, for example, out trying to energize college voters
Nobody
in
gives a fuck
Pennsylvania.
about celebrities,
Jennifer
bro.
Garner as well.
It matters, but not really.
Stay in line.
Mark Cuban is FaceTiming voters in a 4-hour line at UNC
Exactly.
Chapel Hill right now.
It speaks to how close this race continues to be as these results come in. On the other hand, you have the Trump campaign saying, hey, we're seeing good turnout in Philadelphia, yes, in the Trump areas. We'll have to see how that actually bears out when we start to get results in Philadelphia. But it does speak to the fact that there's a real focus on this epicenter and on young voters.
And when we talk about young men in particular, and to the point that you're making here at the table, that the Trump campaign has really looked to turn those young men out, they're not typically the people who show up to the ballot box every 4 years. They're what's called those low propensity voters we've been talking about. I will tell you that the Trump campaign feels like they've been doing a pretty good job trying to turn those not always voters into voters at least this cycle, because for them, that's one of the big keys. If they can get this demographic out to the ballot box to actually show up, whether that was early or whether that's now, they're feeling like they're going to have some wind at their back.
It's, you know, you take a step back, the story of this election is the gender gap. It's the battle of the sexes election, and whether you want to say it's young men or senior women, or it's men and women. If Trump turns out more men, he wins. If Kamala Harris turns out more women, she does. It's kind of as simple as that.
No doubt about it. And what's so fascinating is that the Trump campaign tried this sort of unusual, unconventional tactic to get out the vote, which was to outsource it to Elon Musk, to other outside groups. And they were quite bullish heading into tonight, saying, look, we feel good about this decision.
And remember, the Harris campaign was concerned about black men as well. I mean, you know, they brought in President Obama to make the case. Any evidence right now how that appeal has translated into votes tonight?
Well, that's one of the things that she has talked about on the campaign trail. I sat down with the vice president not too long ago, and she feels like she needed to earn every single one of those black male votes just as much as Joe Biden would have. That's why you saw her, we talked about podcasts, doing like an NBA podcast, a football podcast. Sure, she did call her daddy to try to reach out to those young women. That's the name of course, that very popular podcast with women. But she also was trying to extend an olive branch to men. I would just say this. Two things are true. Right? Kamala Harris, let me say it this way. Donald Trump is doing better with men based on public polling right now than Kamala Harris is doing with women, though that gap exists. But also remember that historically, women have turned out more than men in every election dating back to 1980. And so that is going to be one of the big key factors into tonight.
And that's why that moment with former President Obama was so significant when he called on them not to stay at home.
All right. Well, we're just a few minutes away now
I don't know
from
if that
a
really
big
moved the
batch
needle.
of poll closings at 8 o'clock
There's
Eastern
nothing
time,
yet.
including the one that everybody's been watching, Pennsylvania. And we'll be right back.
Oh, shit. Yeah, you're right. Damn, it's already been an hour. I didn't even fucking realize this shit. God damn. Damn. Let me go and look at this. Where are we at on this? 6-0, bro. It went down. Uh-oh. Ooh. Not good. Bro, he's gonna lose. Not good. It's over. Bro, he's gonna lose. I've never voted until today, and I voted for Donald Trump. Man. This is the same as 2020. It was going very well for Trump, and then they rigged it. I think that it's going to be different this time because like, if I remember the way it was last time, the reason why it took so long is because of COVID. It was like COVID and mail-in ballots. So that's not a factor this time. So it's a totally different system. But I guess we're going to have to find out. That's COVID. You think so? The burn ballots? I saw they blew up that one ballot. Yeah, exactly. Watch out for 150K votes and 3 a.m. Look up Google Trends for did Joe Biden drop out? Let me see, I'll pull this up.
Привет, брат. Ой, то есть... Привет, брат. Ой.
Trends Google, let me see, I see this. Everybody thought I was crazy. Everybody thought I was stupid.
News lives in the now.
Why? Because people are stupid. You have no idea how stupid people are.
For the generation of now is NBC News Now.
They're so stupid. There are people that never think about politics until they open up the ballot box and they see, oh, who is it this time?
At vote counting centers across
Yeah, let's
the country
see.
in this historic election.
Some polls have closed, and some places people are still voting.
They are indeed. And we're about 6 minutes to the next poll closing, where we'll get our first look at the real vote count from the biggest battleground of all, Pennsylvania, which we've been talking about, states that have been moving quickly.
We are moments away from the
25
polls
cockroaches. Yeah, you guys can join the Twitter community. Join the Discord.
171 electoral votes up for grabs in the biggest haul of the night.
The haul.
Florida, with its 30 electoral votes, could be one of the
Let's
first big hauls of the evening.
And we'll get our first results from what may be the most important prize this election, Pennsylvania.
We love Pennsylvania.
It is good to be back in Pennsylvania.
The race
narrows significantly.
We're going to win Pennsylvania.
So, Pennsylvania, are you ready to make your voices heard?
We're standing by for the first vote count and new exit poll information from this critical battleground as our decision desk gets ready to make new calls on the road to 270.
Let's see it.
All right,
it's getting called in 4 minutes.
Stephanie Gosk is in Philadelphia. Stephanie, this is where the Harris campaign really needs to ramp up those turnout numbers. What are you seeing?
4 to 80%.
Well, it's coming down here in Northeast
80%.
This is kind of a working class,
A Donald blowout.
Community. People still getting in under the wire in these last few minutes. But the big question, Savannah, afterwards is how long is it going to take to call the state of Pennsylvania? 4 years ago, it took until Saturday. I was on the phone with the former Secretary of the Commonwealth talking about the challenges they faced back then. 2.6 million mail-in ballots. That was what slowed the process down. And it was a new process for people in this state. 4 years later, they haven't changed the laws, but things are a bit better. There are fewer mail-in ballots.
Trump's up by 1.6 million votes.
They have new machines to process them and more people. But the optimistic outlook.
Yeah, he's ahead in the popular vote by over 1 million people.
Those mail-in ballots won't be fully processed until Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And if this race is as tight as it was 4 years ago, Joe Biden
keep in mind, California, California is going to be massive.
Will be crucial.
And there's no shot Trump wins California, right?
Yeah, and in some of these big jurisdictions like Philadelphia, Stephanie, now they have election workers who are prepared to work all night and count all night, so perhaps it goes a little bit quicker.
Keep that in mind.
Back with you a bunch. We have got Tom Yamas over at the big board, and you're still getting vote in from Georgia and North Carolina, two big pieces of the puzzle.
2 minutes left.
We're talking about Georgia right now because North Carolina, there's still only about 2% of votes in. Let's look at Georgia because I think what is happening here when we talk about Kamala Harris and her chances, she's overperforming Biden in some of these counties around the Atlanta metro area. I'm going to move the map over this way because I'm going to bounce around. Here on this side, the right side, this is where Biden was at 2020.
But it doesn't really matter, though, right?
Tonight, 76% in. You can see she's overperforming there. We come to this other county, Clayton County. Again, these are the suburbs of Atlanta, those ring counties around Atlanta. 84% for Biden, 85% for her, so she's holding that high water mark.
ATL not counted.
True. Look at this. 69% for Biden, 75% tonight for Harris. They're looking at these numbers tonight, and again, there's still a lot of vote
Trump
out.
is
But
done.
they're looking at these numbers tonight, and they're telling themselves this is the kind of rhythm they want for the rest of Georgia throughout the night. Only 25% of the vote is in. Trump is way on top, but again, 25% of the vote is in. Remember, we can show you guys where the vote is out. These giant bubbles, the bigger the bubble, that's how many votes still have to be counted. So you can see a lot of the rural counties, a lot of them are coming in. There's still some in the rural county that are out, but the big area, remember, 50% of the vote is going to come around the Atlanta metro region. Let's also talk about Pennsylvania, guys, because we're getting close to getting some information in Pennsylvania.
Let's
remember, this 2020, Joe Biden wins the state. It is going to be the keystone state and the key to the election tonight. Trump won it in 2016. The difference, about 40,000 votes.
That's really close.
2020, he wins
that
by
is
about
so
80,000
close.
votes. Biden does. The interesting that has happened, and we've learned a lot
Refresh
about Philadelphia, the counties around Philadelphia, places like Chester, places like Montgomery County. Those people we know call it Munco. We'll talk to Hallie about that, as well as Kristen Welker as well. Delaware County, Delco, and Philadelphia County. This area right here, this makes up about 30% of the vote for Pennsylvania. We're going to be watching what happens here. What's interesting that happened here in 2020, so Biden actually underperformed Clinton, but he overperformed in those suburbs. So we'll be watching what happens there. You also have these swing counties here, the Lehigh Valley, Monroe County, part of the Poconos, Northampton, and Lehigh. Lots of Hispanics there. We're going to see what happens, and we are so honored to have both Kristen and Hallie, people who know about Wawa. They know about Eagles fans. They know about steaks. Come on. How good is Wawa?
Phillies. Wawa's the best.
Always.
But Tom, you forgot to ask them cheesesteaks, wit or wit out?
Wit.
Okay,
Whiz wit out, babe.
Okay.
Whiz wit out.
All right. Well, we have a lot of time just to do Philly talk. We won't leave Pittsburgh out, but we got we're coming up on a poll close.
Yeah, 21 seconds
until
the top of the hour. Another poll close, and we're going to hear from about 17 states here.
It's about to happen.
At the top of the hour, and there's our election alert as we stand by, and the drama building now because as we've been talking about, we're going to see Pennsylvania. Those are the other states that the poll closings are about to occur in fact about 1 second, and we'll be able to get some characterizations for you here in just a moment. We'll look at those 8 o'clock poll closings. Here's an NBC News projection. State of Florida, NBC News projects
of course it's going to be Donald.
In Florida and take its 30 electoral votes. The state of Massachusetts, Kamala Harris, the projected winner tonight with 11 electoral votes. Donald Trump, the projected winner in Tennessee tonight, 11 electoral votes there. In the state of Maryland, NBC News projects that will go in the Kamala Harris column. We move on to the state of Missouri. NBC News projects that Donald Trump is the victor in Missouri.
Wow, Alabama.
But Alabama looks like that will also go to Donald Trump. State of Oklahoma, this will be projected to go to Donald Trump. And in D.C., District of Columbia, 3 electoral votes at stake. NBC News projects that Kamala Harris will win there. So where does it leave us now on the road to 270? There it is, 90 for Trump right now, 27 for Harris, 270, of course, the magic number and the keys to the White House.
But we await calls in those all-important battlegrounds, and there are still outstanding states. Just as polls closed at 8 o'clock, we will wait for New Jersey, Illinois, Connecticut, and, of course, Pennsylvania as well. Let's show you what we can right now in Pennsylvania. No surprise here. It is too early to call. North Carolina, same story.
Nobody knows.
There, but
let me see what the other information is.
Still too early.
Refresh map. Okay, I'm doing it.
And in Georgia, we're seeing a lot more of the vote, but still too early to make a projection. Let's go to Tom, who's starting to look at some of the numbers here. And I see you've got Virginia up there, which is a potential bellwether, something that might give us some indication about how this night might go.
Yeah, and it's a state that we can look at to see how the suburbs are going to perform across the country. I know a lot of you guys know the D.C. area very well. 30% of the vote is going to come from these northern suburbs. It's a good barometer to know also how Harris is doing with suburban women. So let's go to 2020 to compare here. So Prince William County, it looks like Harris is slightly down with 75% of the vote in. This one stood out to me. 95% of the vote is in Loudoun County right now.
Just keep
Biden
refreshing.
Was at 61%. Harris is now at 56%. Again, there's a 35,000 votes. 95% is in, and we can actually see how much of the vote is left. Only about 3,600 votes remain in Loudoun County. So she's underperforming
Texas
a little
is
bit
green.
there. As we keep going here, Fairfax
8%.
County, 45% in. She's at 68%. Let's see how Biden was doing there. 69, about the same. Something else that's interesting that's happening in Virginia, Virginia Beach. This is a swing county. Trump won it in 2016. Biden was able to flip it. Tonight, Trump is on top, but only about 20% of the vote is in. A lot of the western part of the state, as we know, is going to be more rural. Some of that coal mining country, it's going to resemble West Virginia. We have some of the vote in a county like over here, Wise County. This is a good Trump barometer. He's at 78%. He was at 80% in 2020, but 41% of the vote is out.
95.
He's underperforming slightly. I guess the thing that sticks out to me, which it's too early to know if it's a red flag. But Loudoun County, again, you know, this is a place where Democrats want to run up those votes in Virginia. Not that Virginia is in danger for Democrats because they were able to run up the score in 2020.
Texas Blue so far,
in 2016 got close. He got within 5 points. A number like this, it's going to worry them a little bit. But I know you guys know much more about that area than I do.
Well, actually, we're honored to have a resident of the Commonwealth of Virginia with us, Chuck Todd. So, I mean, you look at that, you know those suburban collar counties around Washington, D.C. very well. Is that a warning light if Kamala Harris is not performing as well as Biden did in some of those suburban, exurban counties?
It could be if we're going to see that if it's moving. You know, Virginia is sort of the gateway now to the north rather than being, I always joke, it's the one southern state that has been consistently a Democratic state, not even a swing state anymore. So if that is consistent, yes. One thing I've learned, though, with the Northern Virginia vote, that 5% can account for a lot more uncounted vote than people realize. So, and there is a sense, so that's a wait and see. Look, the bigger thing that I've taken away so far is we are seeing, we're in the middle, we've been in the middle of a
check poly market. Okay, I will right now.
Look at this.
70%
of his
holy shit
is much different than it was in 2016 or 2020, and I think we're
Trump is
seeing
up by
it both
95
on ethnicity and geographically. So it looks like stronger in the Southeast.
Yeah.
And there is a larger population of Hispanics
27 to 90
Southwest than any other part of this country. The exit polls indicate
this
that
one's
she is
behind.
going to do better with older white women. I've been messing around with Indiana. Under two, in almost even in the rural counties. Indiana's a very white state. That's a tea leaf. I just throw it out there. It's a tea leaf. They obviously border.
Where those voters go?
No, that she's performing a couple of points better. These and we could really see this country divided by regions where she's stronger in the north because she's improving with white voters. And he's stronger in the south because he's improving with voters of color, in particular Hispanic voters.
Texas is red now? Let me see. I'm checking right now.
Hispanic voters, it's not just Florida. I think
it shows it's still blue.
Georgia, we're seeing it as well.
Well, we're seeing it nationally, too. And you look at some of the numbers here, he is plus 10 specifically with Latino men, according to our exit poll nationally. A demographic definitely a shift, and it is definitely one of the headlines that we're watching as we're seeing these.
Ban that guy? Yeah, I know.
You see that? I mean, the Latino vote is not just concentrated in the Southwest.
That's exactly right.
It's not just the Southeast. It's also in Pennsylvania.
We have been talking about the ground game quite a bit. It's been heavily focused in Pennsylvania on trying to energize Latinos on both sides. Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump really focusing on that in places like Allentown, in places like Reading, Pennsylvania, trying to make sure that they are getting them out.
That's in Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris is 78%.
Her campaign last night.
Oh, jeez.
Demonstrating the importance of this. Perhaps days.
Only 4% in, though? Yeah, true.
So, you know, it's interesting. Chuck's talking about the graceful removal from the chair. Thank you all for bearing with me. Chuck's talking about the realignment here and where people are sort of politically. One of the things we're watching on that front is this idea of independent voters. We know that they are going to be potentially a crucial voting bloc here. Vice President Harris had made overtures to this group in the closing weeks of her campaign, really trying to win them over, to get them over to her side. Look at how they're breaking nationally here. She is winning independent voters nationally. 51%, Donald Trump 44%.
Not a surprise.
Here's the thing. Nationally is not how you win or lose the White House. You win the White House in the battleground states. And look at the state of states, Pennsylvania, right? The most key battleground this year. In Pennsylvania, it's the opposite. It's former President Trump who is actually leading with independents over Vice President Harris in this really important state where the margins could be really close here. You can see it here. He's at 50%. She's at 44%.
And yeah,
Again,
Trump is still ahead with the popular
so you might
vote.
ask, okay, well, how does that compare to how
That's
he
crazy.
did 4 years ago? He is overperforming generally with independents now in Pennsylvania. You see in 2020, 44%. He's doing a bit better now in 2024, 50%. And Savannah, Lester, Chuck, Chris, and I'll toss it back to you at the table. This could be really interesting as we watch this develop throughout the course of the night, not just in Pennsylvania, but in some of these other key battlegrounds as well, like Michigan and Wisconsin. We'll get to later.
Actually, I think Chuck wanted to weigh in.
No, I just think we are seeing something else happen, which is you have a country that's really sour about our politics, sour about the direction of the country. And we now have fewer people identifying with the two major parties, according to our exit poll. It's a huge development. Independents are the fastest growing flock. Now, it's very rational. If you don't like the direction of the country, you don't like what's happening, and you think there's a threat to democracy, you have a lot of faith in the two major parties, but
probably not.
The lowest share of major parties, people identifying with the two major parties in at least 4 elections, it means these independent votes are going to be the whole ball game.
Oh, I mark it now? Okay, let me see it.
We are keeping a sharp eye on the state of Georgia. We can show you where things stand. We just had a really change of characterization here. Our
Trump's down now.
Is that this is too close to call. You can see about
37% with Georgia.
267,000 vote difference.
Texas is red. Let me see.
37% of the vote in, but again, the NBC
it still shows Texas is blue.
Too close to call in Georgia.
We've got a lot of contributors lined up to talk to you tonight. We've got Senator Claire McCaskill, I believe, over at our insider's desk. And Senator, I wonder what you thought about that. What some are seeing is something of an alarm bell. This Loudoun County, suburban Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, where it seems that Kamala Harris is underperforming in the suburbs in these battleground states.
This is the witching hour. You know, this is
the witching hour.
It is very early.
Ooh, Texas red now.
Uh-oh. Correct. I was the governor and John Kerry.
Yeah. Maine. Poor votes.
Come in from different places, typically
Maryland, 0%. Kamala wins already?
So I think she's going to be fine in the suburbs.
What?
I think, and I don't think the exit polls will actually reflect accurately what will happen with independent voters. I'm not saying she's going to dominate independent voters, but I'll be very surprised if there aren't a whole lot of women that call themselves independents that don't vote for Donald Trump.
At what point in all this do you begin to let out a sigh of relief here?
Well, listen, I think depending on what happens in Georgia and North Carolina, if by any chance she wins those 2 states, then I can breathe again. If she does not, then obviously Pennsylvania becomes even bigger.
Yeah.
And don't sleep on Nevada. I think that may be the closest margin in this race. I think
5%. Kamala Harris, bro, is blowing Donald Trump the fuck out.
To 2,000 votes separating the 2 candidites. I think it's that close in Nevada.
Well, we're waiting polls close there in less than an hour. Nevada and Arizona, those big western battlegrounds, but we do not expect results there, frankly, for days. So I guess Senator McCaskill is going to be holding her breath for a very, very long time. We've got Sarah Fagan.
It's only 5%. Yep, true.
Republican campaigns, and again, with all the caveats, we are reading
as much farming.
Right now,
yeah.
What are you looking at? What are you noticing?
We like to have a little bit of fun.
And how do you see this shaking out?
So if you look at Florida, you look at Virginia, Donald Trump is running about 4 points better than he did in 2020. But then contrast Georgia and North Carolina, where I should caveat that less of the vote is in.
Yeah.
He's running 1 point ahead in Georgia.
Right.
He's running a little behind in North Carolina, where he did in 2020. And that says to me, perhaps, that the Harris GOTV effort is quite strong, that she's pulling her votes out in places where the campaign organized. So she's holding that margin closer.
And the GOTV, for those of you just joining us on Political Nerd Fest, get out the vote, the ground game. When we're talking about it, you know, this is about when you say, you pull the bus up and you say, let's go, we're going to hold you by the hand and take you to the polls. And organizing is the key to any successful campaign.
Absolutely, and you have the Harris campaign touting the fact that, for example, they knocked on 3 million doors over the weekends. It winds up being numbers, though, until people actually go to the polls and vote. And I do think, just bouncing off something that Chuck said earlier, it's just to zoom out for a moment. Remember that one of the biggest issues of this campaign was change. What people really want is change. And so what you saw in both of their closing arguments was an attempt to argue they're the change candidate. And so what we are seeing, for example, with
Pennsylvania, bro, like Trump is, he is way behind.
The person who winds up winning this race will be the person who ultimately voters say that's the change candidate.
And like everything in this election year, it's complicated because you have a former president, so there's a certain incumbency.
Check Fox News, they're dropping bombs.
And there's certain incumbency
there.
There's something baked into Donald Trump's call for a change here because he was already in the White House for 4 years. Same thing for Vice President Harris as you're looking at the popularity or favorability rating for President Biden, which is low. And so the question is is that going to be a drag on how she does? To your point on the get out the vote effort, this is why early vote was critical for both of these campaigns, with some 79 million people voting early. Better to
Bro,
bank
can you
those
please stop
votes.
yelling
What if
Trump
somebody
as
gets
fuck?
sick?
Every
What if
time you
somebody's,
do,
you know,
my
kid has
dad
to stay
flips
out
the
of
fuck
school or
out.
whatever.
I don't
Get
want him to
those
die.
votes in now
Okay.
to get them locked and loaded.
Let me just change the conversation just for a moment, because we do have another call to make, and it's an NBC News projection in the state of South Carolina. South Carolina will go to Donald Trump when all the votes are counted later. And here's where the breakdown right now that Donald Trump, again, the projected winner. 24% of the vote in there, a vote difference of about 104,000. But again,
it's
Donald
over?
Trump will pick up South Carolina. Here's where it leaves us.
Wait, guys, is it really over?
Donald Trump out in front with 99. Kamala Harris,
27 versus, oh my God.
Battlegrounds where polls have closed. They're counting, but we don't have results yet. Still either too early to call or too close to call. Let's go to NBC's Garrett Haake. He's at Trump headquarters in West Palm Beach, Florida, at Mar-a-Lago. Tell us what the campaign is saying to you.
Well, Savannah, what seems to be calming nerves down the street at Mar-a-Lago is what they're seeing out of Georgia right now, a state you were just discussing, where their key to victory was essentially blowing the doors off in rural turnout and improving their margins among minority voters, Latino voters, Black voters. The campaign is seeing, in the same exit polls we're looking at, improvement among Black voters, particularly Black men, who the Trump campaign has spent heavily for months and months and months to try to win over, even just a few percentage points, the kind of thing that decided by fewer than 12,000 votes 4 years ago. The other thing that I think has accrued to Trump's favor in Georgia is the resumption of unity among Georgia Republicans. Remember, there was a huge fallout with Brian Kemp, the popular Republican governor there, after 2020. Trump and so they together on the campaign trail, the two singing from the same hymnal in the race's closing weeks, along with a lot of these other Trump candidates, could be helpful to Trump in that state.
All right, Garrett, we have a call to make. This is North Carolina. The governor's race there. John Stein, the Democrat, takes the race there. He faced off against the Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, a very controversial candidate, and the polls had shown, well, we talked about ticket splitting, where perhaps the vote for the presidency might be different than the vote down the ballot. Perhaps to be an indication of that. Josh Stein, the winner of the governor's race in North Carolina, a brief word about this controversial lieutenant governor candidate. You both are jumping to tell me who wants to take.
Let me just say one.
We got 9
there. Gubernatorial candidate was. But just remember, the ticket splitting piece, this is a state that has ticket split president, governor before. That's it, right? So this, I think...
They have a Democratic governor right now.
That's exactly right. So if somebody's looking at this going, well, the Democratic governor won in North Carolina, doesn't that mean maybe that Vice President Harris is a lock? It does not, and just to throw that out there, this is a state that where Republicans know how to check a Republican for president.
It was beset by problems.
Beset by problems because he was determined that he posted some highly controversial comments on an adult website. And so the backlash was massive. This result was expected. The question is, that was, by the way, one of the controversies. The question is, when can Trump down support for President Trump? We don't know the answer, but we do know that in 2020, President Biden was not able to win this state because there was, in part, it's believed, a controversial Democratic candidate, and that did his chances. Now, just to zoom out a little bit, Democrat hasn't won the state of North Carolina since 2008, when Barack Obama did it. Trump added 3 campaign stops in these closing days of the race. How important this state is to his path.
North Carolina was very, very tight in 2022. Trump won it, but it was right up there in terms of narrow margins.
And it's a good reminder that even if the electoral vote count ultimately has a pretty wide gap, these margins can be very tight, and those electoral votes, listen, they all go to the winner, right? So that's what matters here in a state like North Carolina.
Well, we already talked to Garrett Haake, who was in West Palm at Trump headquarters. Let's go over to Peter Alexander. He's at the Harris headquarters in Washington.
Hey, Savannah, you just heard from Garrett a moment ago talking about how Donald Trump's team seems to be satisfied that he is doing a bit better with those Black and Latino voters right now. Similarly, the Harris campaign feels good that she is outperforming with white voters over Joe Biden's performance with them in some of our early exit poll indications in parts of the country right now. One thing they're keeping an eye on. Another thing I'm hearing from senior officials within the campaign as they get ready to start the program here is that they are seeing really good enthusiasm among those youngest voters, those college students in particular right now. They're talking about long lines. You know what? Let me do this. They're starting the Star-Spangled Banner. I'll give it back to you with respect to our country. Then we'll come back in a moment.
All right, Peter, that is Harris headquarters in Washington, D.C. We've got Tom Yamas over at the big board.
Yeah, we're talking Georgia, right? Because it is so close. A reminder here, we're talking about Democrats feeling a little hopeful in North Carolina, Republicans feeling a little better about Georgia. If they swap, right, if Democrats win North Carolina and Republicans win Georgia, they're both 16 electoral votes. We're back to square one where we were in 2020. Let's talk about Georgia tonight, because what we're seeing is both camps are overperforming, so it's going to be a nail-biter. Remember, in 2020, it came down to about 12,000 votes, a little under that. Let's start in Atlanta, the metro region. Cobb County, we have 57% of the vote in. And let's see how Biden did, 56%. This is actually, Cobb County tells the story of the Atlanta metro region. Newt Gingrich represented Cobb County.
You missed Gooner,
Gov? Been able to run up the score from Romney in 2012.
Polly's at 69.
Clinton flips it, and look how they're growing the margins. And tonight, that's exactly what Kamala Harris is doing. She's growing the margins in Cobb County. Let's go around. Let's see what we have in Fulton. Fulton, 53%.
Bro, the
how
prophecy.
That compares to Biden, 72. She's
the
holding
prophecy
her own around the Atlanta metro region.
Shit.
Let's see over here. Gwinnett, we only have about 1% in. Not
How's
really
the
worth
electoral college
there.
work?
Clayton County,
Nobody really knows.
Slightly overperforming Biden. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll keep moving. Henry County, 1% in. This is one of those swing counties we can talk about.
Yeah, nobody really has any idea.
I don't know how much we're going to be able to say there. Rockdale County, again, those Atlanta suburbs, 77% of the vote in. She's overperforming there. Okay, that's Harris. That's the Democrats. Let's go to these rural regions. Rabun, 95% in. Trump at 78 in 2020. He's at 78 right now. You can see he's holding his marks. Union County, a little bit lower, but again, he's around the 80% mark where he should be, and overperforming in White County. Again, those are the rural counties. Let's go to Georgia's Black Belt, where they have counties with lots of African-American voters. Here in Doherty,
did you say boners?
This is about 70% African-American here, slightly overperforming Biden. So again, guys, what I'm trying to say here is that right now, it's very similar to what we saw in 2020. Trump seems to be hitting his marks where he was in the rural counties, in those African-American counties and around the Atlanta region. Democrats are hitting those marks. It's going to be very close. It's one of the reasons why when we click on Georgia right here, it is literally just too close to call, guys.
All right, Tom, we got a lot ahead here. We're going to take a break, and then another state closing its polls. Which candidate will it bring closer to those crucial 270 electoral college votes? We will be right back.
I heard boner for sure. I did too. A lot ahead. Yeah, all right. Let me look at the chart. Thank God. Okay, now I have a minute. Let me see what the chart is. Okay, so we got 95 for Trump, 35 for Trump is ahead with the popular vote by a bit. Like, that's a lot. Damn, that's a lot. And so you got Texas right here, 27% of Texas. Texas is ahead by 300,000. That's a whole lot. Virginia's very close. Ooh, I don't know, guys. I don't know. Yeah, all southern states are reporting. Yeah, you're right. Like, all of these are probably going to go to Kamala Harris. Yeah, look at this. This is all like 10 p.m. They're like trying to figure out like what they can do to rig it. That's it. Yeah, they're rigging. Yeah, that's why they had to take a couple more hours to like brainstorm. Like, okay, how we gonna make up these votes? Oh my God, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this? Let me see this. You click on the state, you can see what percentage of votes are counted. I know, I see it. Yeah, Missouri, Trump wins. Yep, easy. Kansas, Trump. Whoa. Yeah, he's done. Oklahoma, Trump wins again. Let's see this. Georgia. See, I'm really curious about Georgia.
We're just glad you're with us.
I'm very curious.
News lives in
I think Trump's going to lose because of Atlanta.
Every second.
I do. I think he's going to lose.
Is more now.
But we're going to see.
This monster and historic storm is set to make landfall.
Now is raw.
What was your initial
Trump got
reaction?
Devastating. Look, the state.
Now is real.
They haven't called it.
Voting. It's here. It's happening.
Now
yeah?
is constant.
You gotta see this.
Future is now.
Yeah, it says
News for the
47%. No, I
generation
know
of
that.
now is NBC News Now.
8:20 in the
All right.
east, 5:20
All right,
in the
let's
west.
see it.
We've got some major battlegrounds closed.
27 to 99.
The votes are being counted as we speak. That's the road to 270, filling out a bit with some predictable wins and losses in this country. But let's go to the battlegrounds. Virginia is too early to call. Just 33% of the vote in. We'll continue to watch it. Ohio. The polls have closed there. It is too early to call, although that once battleground is now more a reliably red state. We'll see how that shakes out. Pennsylvania. Stop me if you've heard Pennsylvania very much during this campaign season.
Yeah, it's bad.
Oh,
it's real bad for Donald.
There. And in Georgia, we have characterized this as too close to call. So we are about halfway through the vote counting there, 50% in. And though you see that margin,
pro-Trump.
depending on where
Omega
the votes are
Donald
from,
is
it
losing.
Our expectation that right now this vote in Georgia's 16 electoral votes just too close to call.
All right, let's go over to Hallie Jackson with some new exit polling information on the gender gap.
So this has been a storyline we're talking about all night, right? We say it, Savannah, Lester, you both said it, the battle of the sexes, men versus women. It gets a little bit more complicated at that, but let's start with the gender gap nationally here. And you can see it absolutely still exists. So these are our exit polls nationally based on gender. You can see, obviously, this is just the vote here. Women, 53%, 47% men. Typically what we might see. When you get into vote break, I'm going to ask our team to pull that up. You are seeing that more women are backing Vice President Harris. More men are backing former President Trump. More women, 55% for Harris. Trump, 43%. We'll go to men, and you'll see it flips.
No
That
way.
red slice of the pie gets a little bit bigger for Donald Trump when it comes to men nationally, and we'll pull that up so you can see it. The other piece of this, though, there's more to it, right? And when you get a little bit deeper in race and education, that is where this gets really key. And for that, you look at white college-educated women. We've been talking about this demographic a lot here in some of these.
That's probably going to be voting for Kamala Harris.
Better with white college-educated women. Donald Trump is doing better with non-college-educated white women.
Potentially, and I want to bring in our panel. We've got Sarah Fagan, who is here. She was a veteran of the Bush White House, George W. Bush, the political director there, and Senator Claire McCaskill of the great state of Missouri that was once a swing state as well. You were a Democratic senator. Way back when. So we've talked a lot about the gender gap, but I think the education gap.
So they're saying all the stupid people vote for Trump?
Senator, what's your take?
The dumber you is, the more you like Trump.
We have urban, rural. We have college-educated, non-college educated.
Yeah?
But the big one this election are women.
Oh, shit.
And yes, there is a difference between college-educated women and non-college educated women. But the support for Harris is so big among college-educated women. And the key in this election, I think, is are they going to drag their husbands, their sons, their uncles with them over to the Trump side? Because these are my peeps,
Are those the shy Harris voters?
College-educated older women.
Yes.
I mean, I live in that place.
Is this the battle of the sexes, or is that being over?
Man, I didn't have my mic plugged or turned on.
Educated women are a critical, if not the critical, voting bloc in this election. And
Fuck.
you pointed out that,
Yeah.
It's fucking obvious that women are going to vote for a woman. Like, what the fucking
I was listening to
It's not going to happen.
Now, one point doesn't
the stream.
What are we talking about?
You know, if
fucking duh.
Kamala Harris drives
The
up
eighth
her,
list.
Yeah.
her results among
I was listening to the stream before I started streaming, and
Pennsylvania, like
I was listening to Asman cover the election, and
Ohio turned. Oh,
This is the first presidential election post
Donald.
It's a big day.
versus Wade. We've seen the potency of that issue.
Fucking election.
Abortion rights measures have passed every time they've been on the ballot.
Not really. I don't even give a fuck. I don't give a fuck who wins. I don't like either one of them.
That issue still has its potency and is a weak spot for Republicans.
I think it has its potency for sure. It
But it's still big, important news. You know what I mean? It's like
Trying to look at it.
of the electorate on both sides
Virginia
of the
flipped on
issue,
Fox.
for whom that is the most important issue. But there's no question among younger voters.
I've been doing that.
That's an issue that is driving them out.
That event.
And so the question is, really is that
Oh,
the
boy.
main issue they're voting on, or is that one of many issues they're voting on?
Yeah,
It's doing a lot.
Hold up.
Lot better, but
we're going to talk a lot about
when I ranked,
but I don't don't think we should ignore the fact
I did
that
horribly, so I'm like,
playing a big role
I
today.
had to claw my way up to like 3,000.
At college campuses right now, whether you're in North Carolina or Pennsylvania
Yeah,
or Wisconsin.
I mean, either way, if Trump wins, people are going to go crazy. If Trump loses, people are going to go crazy. It's just,
on college campuses. So
people get real worked up about this shit over here, man. It's
that are voting age and kids who aren't in college that are
fucking
voting.
nuts.
Just in a few states or across all states?
In all of the states, they're seeing.
I don't even know why. It doesn't change anything, really.
Places that are
We just pretend like it does.
The Florida abortion ban. Remember, there are
No,
10
but
states
we can
with
blame
abortion
Concord.
on the ballot tonight, and we can show you how
Mira
the
Strada.
Florida Amendment 4.
Mr. Adani.
This, by the way, requires a 60% to reach the 60% level. So right now, not there yet. We're not making a call, but that's.
It's been interesting to see these
All
ballot
right,
measures.
I don't need to do anymore. Yeah, I was saying I was only doing these for the daily, but I was only doing the daily for the weekly that wants me to do 30 of them, but I think I'm too late. It's going to reset before I can do it anyway, so.
Is there a question in your mind?
So I'm not going to do it.
Look at Marilyn. Chill, bro. Quit typing it.
Democrats who might have been motivated to go to the polls on the abortion issue feel like, oh, well, it's already taken care of. People are kind of in the middle thinking, I can vote for Trump even because I think I've already taken care of this abortion question with regard to the ballot measure in a battleground like Michigan.
I don't know. I think ProPublica has done such an amazing job.
You type something more than once, you're done.
To women because of Trump.
Haslin's always so fucking ban happy.
Many, many states.
It's funny.
Texas isn't a battleground state, but there's a Senate race out there that I've got a half an eye on tonight.
Ooh.
And I think when you have women dying who want to have the children, who are suffering a miscarriage and can't get the health care they need, that takes it to a different level. And I don't think we had very many of those stories out there.
Ohio, Trump with the 1% lead now.
The campaign has certainly emphasized those stories.
So, yeah. It's been
closed now?
It's been a grind up here. I did a whole bunch of the substance grinding. Yeah, that was alright.
Closing here at the 8:30 hour in the east. Arkansas will be closing.
Huge, yep.
We'll perhaps get a characterization. That's the only one at 8:30 we're going to see. And here's the projection. NBC News.
I'll see it.
Can project that Donald Trump will win in the state of Arkansas when all the votes are counted. 6 electoral votes. Here's where we are on the map to 270. That leaves Donald Trump at 99 electoral votes. 27 for Harris. Again, the goal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't give a shit about either one of them.
Damn.
But our economy is in the fucking toilet, so I feel like maybe Trump might be better. I mean, it'll improve the economy. And I didn't have a problem with him the first time. Honestly, I just don't pay attention to that kind of shit usually. Like 99% of the time, I just try to ignore it. 1, 2, 3, 4.
101?
So I'm not fucking,
oh shit,
in politics. Why the fuck do I care what they do? Alright, I think I'm gonna go just grind out some,
and a caveat here, as Chuck Todd reminded us, Northern Virginia, the suburbs, they do sort of report that vote is still coming in, but we still see some troubling signs.
Faction XP.
In some of these counties. So, Biden was at 61%, 95% of the
actually, what I want to do is go to.
Not a lot of votes going to come in. She's at 56%, 57%.
Nah, I'm going to go grind out some faction
Keep going around. My
XP.
team flagged another county. Fairfax
Substance.
County, she's doing fine.
I mean, I'm always going to need more of that.
Performing here as well. 80% of the vote is in. Biden was at 62. She's
Come
at 58.
on, needs a cognitive
Again, these are
test.
Suburban women, highly educated.
Oh, because she's stupid?
Degrees, sort of your establishment Democrats.
What?
In a growing area of Virginia as well. A lot of people move here for the jobs, to work in government as well. Again, it's still very early. We're still waiting for all the votes to be called in Virginia. An area we watch too is Chesterfield. This is just south of Richmond. African Americans who originally lived in Richmond moved out to places like Chesterfield and Henrico as well. It's one of those swing counties. Biden won in 2020. Trump won it in 2016. So we're keeping an eye on it. And you see, this is where Biden was in 2020. This is where Kamala Harris is tonight, 49.4. But there's only 35% of the vote in. So still a lot of vote to be counted there. So we're going to stay and watch that. As we move further west, we have some counties out here.
I'm just looking.
This is Wise
Refresh.
County. This is Trump country near West Virginia.
This is Trump. Kamala, 49.
He was at 80.4 in 2020. He's at 81.6.
Oh,
Again,
shit.
How does he win states like Virginia? They're going to run up the votes in the suburban areas, the Democrats. He runs up the votes in the rural areas. So that's going to be good there for the Republicans if they want to hold those marks. Virginia Beach, this is another area we're going to be watching. Again, an area that sometimes tends to swing.
Oh, boy.
2016.
Yeah, man, I was up real late last night doing that event.
But Trump is ahead there. So we're watching
Fucking,
Virginia, and we'll see what happens. We're still waiting for some of the vote to come in here. But some signs that, you know, maybe trouble Democrats, maybe they trouble Republicans as well. We're going to have to wait. Back to you guys.
All right, we shall wait.
Great.
We do have a key projection right now.
Fucking event, man. You call a little bit forward, then fucking the game knocks you back.
3.
Here's how the vote shook
Damn.
I don't like the point structure of this event.
Expected to be. So here's where we fill out our map.
Just kind of sucks doing it with randoms. I played it with Mochi though, and
How many electoral votes does California have?
a lot. It's got a lot of.
54.
Yeah, sure.
Bro, they need to nerf California.
Oh yeah. This guy. Never seen.
54. What do you mean?
Let me just show you because we've just started to see.
That's too many. Yeah. What do you mean?
In person on election day, you see this line that goes out the door around. What you're looking at are all of the precinct captains from Gwinnett County. Ultimately, what they're doing is they're coming in here. They have with them little bags that are secured with the official election seal on the top of the envelope and memory cards, and at least 2 from each precinct that have the total. They check in with these folks and then they give memory cards to the different election workers that are sitting around here. And they open up, they look at
almost 70% for Trump on Poly Market. I saw it.
Make sure it has everything necessary by Georgia law inside of it. And then they send them back into this room here, where we start to see those votes processed and then sent out to the public. In addition to all that's happening on here, back here, and come with me, we'll weave a little through everyone here. There's more counting going on in the back. You mentioned this county is really important to both political campaigns. I'll tell you why. This is a rapidly growing county in the state of Georgia. It's also incredibly diverse. It leans blue, but back in 2020, Donald Trump had about 40% of the vote in Gwinnett County. And ultimately, what Republicans in the Trump campaign were looking for tonight is to see if they could increase turnout just enough where they
look at Maryland. It's rigged.
Wait,
Wait, really? Too big to rig? 52. She's catching up, guys.
So they could create that blue wall Tom has been talking so much about in Metro Atlanta. And a lot of it is happening in here tonight. Keep coming a little this way, because one of the most significant aspects of tonight that we've watched in here are the early votes, early in-person voting numbers in this county. Over 50% of active voters in Gwinnett County alone voted early. That's either by mail-in ballots or early in person. Back over here, you see all these things? I've been describing them today almost as like inside of them, all of the in-person early.
Oh shit! I didn't. So smart. So smart.
Maryland numbers.
Where is it? Early numbers out quickly.
Where's Maryland?
Oh, this one. Of Gwinnett County elections has told us they've been on
Went into a firefight with no fucking bullets.
It says 1%.
Genius.
And they're still working over here tonight. This is where the mail-in ballots will come through and
look at North Carolina.
I see it. To the other side here where they'll count and go through all of that. The big question here is going to be, what does turnout look like? Did for the Republicans and Trump? Did
Harris is at 72.
What they did in 2020, a little better this year. Chip away at Harris. Keeping Republican strongholds.
Kansas went red. It did.
Were they able to reach out to people they described as likely Harris voters who were hard to reach? People who would probably vote Democrat, but maybe haven't voted in
Oh my God! It didn't
the
finish.
local county Democrats, they told us they
Big
spent a lot
states are
of
coming
time
out in
trying to
23
reach those
minutes.
voters, canvassing, directly targeting ads to them, and sending a lot of mail to try to get them out. So far, we're told
If you're a woman and voting for Trump, you're retarded.
For Gwinnett County elections, he told us that they are on target right now to surpass voter turnout compared to 2020 by 6:30 today. They had 70% voter turnout roughly in this county. That's exactly what they had
Fucking
in
love that,
2020. So they think they are going to have more turnout in this county, and for both Republicans
Doesn't
and
give a
Democrats,
fuck.
that's exactly what they were hoping to see. But the big question is, how do those votes fall? And remember, 2020, we saw in the midterms a lot of split ticket voters, Republicans who voted for Republicans, just like Trump saying, hey, that's not somebody I support, and he's against him in the midterms, and then voting for the Democratic Senator Rafael Warnock. The question tonight in this county is, could that happen again? And the numbers, at least in terms of the totality, are Savannah.
All right, Allison, thank you. Gwinnett County's late rallies by Donald
Sent you
Trump
DM
there,
about what
and that
states are
county
next?
neighboring
I'm just gonna watch
to
it.
get handed to the election workers. They're so focused.
That's what I was thinking as I was watching
She
that.
walks right by and they don't even look up.
Uh-huh.
They don't even look up. They're counting the votes. It makes you feel good about democracy at work.
Poly markets at 70.
There's also a storyline in Georgia about election workers, of course, right? And
Oh, Trump's up to 70 on Poly Market. That's nuts. That's fucking nuts.
Georgia, that is the home, of course, of Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, who were two elections workers who came under fire, faced death threats, faced severe hardship in their lives because of those election fraud lies from former President Trump. So these election workers,
Who's out here shooting pigs and shit?
True. Hug an election worker.
And it's part of the story of tonight, though, and tomorrow morning, because they've brought on more election workers in all of these states to make sure that they can count more quickly. I do think
SQC shitting his pants?
Gwinnett County, it went for Clinton by 6 points, for Biden by 18 points.
It's bad.
So this is a county that Democrats have been increasingly eyeing, as have Republicans.
Well, we talk about the gender gap as I go to Senator McCaskill and Sarah Fagan. I mean, I mentioned there were Trump rallies in Gwinnett County. One of them was the one where Tucker Carlson, the former Fox News host, talked about daddy's coming home and going to give a little girl a spanking, like, the sheriff's come into town, which is a message that, if you're trying to reach female
Bro, did he
voters,
say that?
I hope so.
feel about that. That's where that happened.
Not good. Don't feel good about that.
Not good.
Don't feel good about that.
Oh man, damn it! I thought I was behind that cabinet.
I think there's about a third of the Trump voters.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, Death. That Death was bullshit.
Going to stay in place, and they think their
Huge crock of shit.
are going to be better protected with less regulation. And then 2/3 of the Trump voters who believe
I was behind that.
That's right. That's right.
I saw it. I was
He
there.
would never lie to me.
A bit of a mixed
Trump would never lie to me.
The Donald Trump's campaign about early voting.
71 for him.
How do you think that is playing out?
Oh no.
If you look at some of the early vote returns, certainly we saw higher numbers of Republicans voting early. It looks to me like
Donald is going ahead with North Carolina.
Day voters previously who voted early. Okay, great for the Trump campaign. They banked votes. They can focus on those who haven't voted. So to me, what I'm going to be looking for is his share of the early vote higher than it was in 2020? Democrats dominated the early vote totals in 2020. And, Donald Trump in most of these states is doing 35, not even higher than
We're not going back.
Any of those states. 43, 44.
In 2020, during the pandemic, Donald Trump was actively telling people not to vote early or not vote by mail.
Should have bought a plate when I was back. There, I didn't. Actually didn't buy anything. I just ran out the door like I always
Voting
fucking
early
do.
is also known as cheating.
Oh my God.
Done that, particularly in a close race. Had he not done that, perhaps he would have won. So I think he learned that lesson. And
everybody
also,
knows that.
The trends in early voting and the trends in absentee by states. It's the
big push this cycle to get voters out to vote early. Donald Trump himself is all over the map on that. You see it at his rallies. He talks about at one rally he would say go out and do it. At another rally he would cast doubt on the validity of ballots that were put in through the mail, etc. Some of that likely seep down to some of his voters in some of these key battleground states, as we heard from talking to voters in some of these battlegrounds. Remember that this is a former president who, over the summer, you look at the 20 rallies, at 5 of them passed out on the results of the election even before votes were counted. That ramped up in just the last month. At 14 of 20 rallies, he did the same thing. So he has not been super consistent on this.
It's way too early to like make any calls.
North Carolina, Georgia,
way ahead.
And Pennsylvania are counting.
All right, let's see it.
Yeah, and we're getting ready for poll closings in places like Nebraska. And Nebraska could be the key to it all. And I know what you're saying. Nebraska,
really?
Yes. So when you look at our beautiful map here, you see the maps, the states that are red, the states that are blue, and our battlegrounds here that aren't colored in. And then Nebraska and Maine, they have this kind of Where's Waldo effect. When we hit it, here's why. Nebraska and Maine, they both give out their electors a little differently. Their electoral votes. If you win the popular vote, you get 2 in Nebraska, and then they give them by congressional district as well. Trump is going to win 2 of the congressional districts most likely in the popular vote, but Congressional District 2, CD2 in Nebraska, is a battleground district, and the entire election, I say, could come down to this. Let me explain why. So let's take you to Nebraska and show you where CD2 is. It's essentially the city of Omaha, right? I'm going to draw it for you and then show you the congressional district. It's the city of Omaha, a little bit of Saunders, and a little bit of Sarkis.
Oh, what the fuck? I'm sure I killed those guys already. Wants to respawn. All right.
District 2. It's a swing district, as I said.
Yep.
2016, Trump wins by 6,000 votes. In 2020, Biden wins by 20,000 votes. So why is it important? Because we come down to that scenario where it's 269, Savannah, I made that out. It's going to come down to Nebraska, too. So everybody's going to matter. It matters so much that we spoke to people in Omaha, asking them about what this campaign was like. They say they've never seen anything like it. They've been inundated with ads saying on the television, on the radio, people calling them, unlike anything they've ever seen before. Again, it likely won't come down to Nebraska, but it might, and that's why again, Omaha, the biggest area of Nebraska, fastest growing area, and tonight we'll be watching it.
Tom, you promised me you would not raise the specter of the 269 to 269.
We're ready for it.
Oh my God. The sneaky one was back there.
Look at popular vote. Okay. Sorry, I was looking at some other stuff. Trump is ahead in the popular vote by 3 million.
It's actually nice to see, I think. We've divided our country so much into red and blue.
Now I have a fucking plate.
Once you get on a county by county level, all of these
that is crazy. Yeah, California's coming. No, when California gets counted, that number will change.
And Nebraska too is a very good example.
How many people are in California? Like a lot, right?
I would say you're right. We live right next to each other, but the folks that live in Omaha,
10 at least.
some of the folks that live out in a very sparsely populated rural county don't relate
38 million
to
people.
some of the same issues that the
30,
people in
40
Omaha
million
think
people.
are
Yeah.
important. It's much more of an urban area.
Yeah, it's not looking good for old Donald.
For the popular vote, I mean, who gives a shit, though?
To re-election there, but there's an independent candidate,
38 million,
who's really giving a run for her money for Deb Fisher.
Yeah, and I will say that one of the things about the urban-rural issue is when you think about the ground game, I don't think we talk about this enough. The ground game for the Republican Party is much harder. Going door to door in rural communities.
All the Trump supporters are getting off work.
Different
you think so?
Than going door to door in a densely populated area. It's not as efficient. It's more difficult. Frankly, a lot of folks out in the rural area don't want strangers knocking on their door.
Which one's Maine?
They're not used to having people they don't recognize coming up the driveway 2 miles down from their nearest neighbor.
Yeah, it's only 4 votes.
So it is harder for the Republican Party to do.
Let's start going that other way.
As we talked about earlier.
72%.
Apparently, it's better for.
It'll be interesting to
see went down. Trump went down.
Where's the sneaky one?
Won't vote for either
I know he's in here.
He says his job would be to try to bring the two parties together. It's probably a winning message right now. I just don't know.
They went all the way over
Nebraska's
here.
pretty red.
All right, well, the drama is continuing to build. 3 big battlegrounds closing at the top of the next
let's
hour.
see
Don't go away. We'll be right back as we count down the road to 270.
Oh boy, Trump is at 74%. Wait, really? No, it doesn't say that at all. Yeah, it does. Yeah. That's 4 votes.
The story of resilience and hope.
California's worth 54 votes. Yeah, they're really overpowered.
And each other.
Yeah, he's at 72.7%. All right, let's go.
they are make or break races on the road to 270. We're talking about the presidential race a lot for good reason. As I turn to Kristen Walker and Hallie Jackson, there is also hanging in the balance tonight the balance of power. Who controls Congress? Who controls the Senate?
Trump.
Who
Give me a bit.
controls the House? And we've got some results there.
That's right. And Republicans need 2 seats.
This is just a substance farm. I can get more. I don't know.
They only need one more.
Right now in West Virginia, as we have
I
already
guess
reported,
this.
Jim Justice has won this seat after Senator Joe Manchin, who was a Democrat, who then switched to an independent, announced he was not running for re-election. This is expected. It is the first Republican pickup, so that
Fucking still got a ways to go on that, though.
Rick Scott has held on to his Senate seat. In
Baldy
Florida
wins.
Handily. He first won this seat back in 2018. This was
It's
one
just
of
the
these
items.
races
I
where
don't know.
reproductive rights was a big issue. Former Congresswoman Debbie McCarsell-Powell trying to make that the big focus of the race, but it was not enough to get her over the finish line. We're watching this very closely. The Senate race in Ohio, too early to call. Senator Sherrod Brown looking for a fourth term
crazy.
against former car dealer, Trump-backed businessman Bernie Moreno. So we'll watch that closely.
Damn.
Pennsylvania, another big battleground.
Ooh. Damn, this guy is done.
Pennsylvania is the battleground. Whoever wins it wins the election.
75%.
Big picture here. Again,
y'all really want me to update this?
For the Senate at this hour, 42 to 33. We'll continue to watch this
very quickly. Hallie, taking a step back, the Republicans need 2 seats, and this is a race that is very difficult for Democrats to hold on to the Senate races. They're on defense in a lot of these states.
Yeah, and the reason for that is likely Montana. This is the other pickup that Republicans feel very confident about. They think they'll be able to get.
What?
That Ohio Senate race.
Of course the Republicans are going to get it. What are you talking about? Oh, they mean Tester. Okay.
Coming up the top of the hour, we're going to have some
All
major
right.
battleground
Yeah, it's
poll
8 more
closings
minutes.
coming up. And we
let's see it.
Drama beginning to clearly build right now. The votes are being counted, and again, we'll get those closings here very shortly. Let's check back in with
Trump has been
Rings of
accused of
patrol.
rape,
Those were
sexual
a
assault,
patrol.
sexual harassment, including non-consensual kissing or groping by at least 25 women. You mean President Trump?
All right, it is 8:51 in the East, and here is where we stand right now on the road to 270.
Yeah, they're talking about the grab him by the pussy thing again, I think.
With more to come, we're now just minutes away.
I mean, he did say that.
Additional closings.
But
yeah, we are, and we see that map starting to fill out.
I don't think it matters.
Let's see it.
At the top of the hour, a major round of
Holiday market 75%. Yeah, I saw that. I saw it.
15 states and 163 electoral college
Yep.
votes up for grabs, including 3 critical swing states.
Arizona. Yeah, we about to know what that's going to be.
Hold on to the blue wall.
Scott dragooning and hating right. That guy, bro.
Michigan.
Ooh. I've heard that
President
before.
Trump break through like he did in 2016.
We are going to
Damn,
win
Missouri, look at that.
Plus, the first Western battleground, Arizona, moments away from closing.
A very big hello, Arizona.
Hey,
We
guys,
love you, Arizona.
remember, if she wins, you're going to have to listen to her for 8 more years. Yep.
We are standing by for our first vote count.
She has such a shrill voice, too.
Get used to it.
New calls on the road to 270.
Many votes to be counted. Battlegrounds all coming in. Michigan has 15 electoral votes up for grabs. A key state, and Jesse Kirsch in Detroit for us today. Jesse, the polls are just about
I mean,
to
they
close.
really
Moments
pulled it
away.
off.
What do you expect? What are you hearing?
All right, let's
They
see.
found a candidate even more unlikable
So
than Trump.
Savannah, statewide, they close at 9 p.m. Eastern, but here in Detroit, in the East Coast time
That's
zone,
not
the
true.
polls have
I
been
don't
closed
even
for
mind
almost an
Trump,
hour. You can see
honestly.
this
I
Not
just,
leaving the country if she becomes president.
I don't like how crazy everybody gets over
I'm not.
politics ever since Trump got into it. It's just like,
I'm just going to go to bed and wake up and stream tomorrow, and everything's going to be the same.
It appears we do still have some people in that line.
everything's going to be the same.
They waited in line for around 4
Yeah.
hours. One young woman
All
told
this
us that she almost
fucking
got out of line
doomsday
because of
speak
the
is just...
declaration.
bit ridiculous. I mean, Doomsday's coming from the Middle East, not the...
Ouch.
At that time, people were going to be allowed to go through the registration process, and it seems people all are still going through that at this hour. This is a traditional Democratic
If Kamala wins, we'll have more DEI.
However, when we've spoken to GOP operators,
Really? I don't know. I think we're going to have a ton of it no matter what.
because of various headwinds. However, there are other potential headwinds that could send traditionally Republican voters toward the vice president. We will have a clearer answer as those results start coming in.
Yeah, we're about to find out.
And we'll get a better idea about turnout, too, which is all important for the Harris campaign in Detroit and also those collar counties. So we want to switch over to Arizona, the Mountain West. Polls
money for
closed.
me.
Gotti Schwartz,
Nice.
they're outside of polling place. Have you seen a lot of crowds?
True.
Yeah,
oh, there it is.
close in about 6 minutes here.
Oh, there's a proto discharge over there. I'll go do
This is
that.
about a 60 to 70 minute wait here. So he's here.
No, I won't.
That's a while.
Right now, probably about 300 to 400 people in front of them. You're noticing
I don't want to do proto
MAGA hats here.
discharges.
Talking about the gender divide. Gender divide is
If
very
Trump
much
wins,
in
we'll have
play
Project
here at
2025.
Arizona State University, and there's been
No, he disavowed that.
propensity voters.
He said he's going to do it.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he said...
Okay, I guess he changed his mind. He's going to put on his Hitler hat and we're going to go to fucking war with Poland. Obviously. Obviously.
A base?
Fucking base.
Students that have been coming out for policy issues.
4 minutes left, John.
I'm going to become a base streamer. That's what I'm going to do. You can get some pretty dedicated fucking fans by just saying like mildly racist shit. You know what I mean? It's like, and I can do that. I can do that. And I'll get banned, and then I'll end up on kick, and I'll be like, man, they're trying to silence me.
They've also said that if Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, would have appeared on that podcast, they may have had their vote skewed. It's really interesting because, you know, some people are talking about policy, others are talking more about kind of like vibes. Well, I like the vibe of Trump, or I like the vibe of Harris, but it's not so
Joe Rogan won
specific.
the
That's just
election.
some of what we've seen.
Joe Rogan President Joe Rogan.
Oh, that sneaky fucker's gonna try to get me again. He always does. There he is. Oh man, he did get me again, and I knew he was there. Well, let me through the fucking doorway, please.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Abortion on the ballot in Arizona, also Florida. Lester, I know you got a key call.
All right.
Yeah, we do have a call here in the state
All right.
of Florida.
All right.
That,
It's fine. It's fine.
Would restore the constitutional right to an abortion. There, but had a 60% threshold.
What the fuck is
Will
that?
not
Oh.
clear it. So amendment for right to abortion will go down. 86% of the vote in there. Let's
Wait, so people do have a right to it? Wait.
Drop in here to say
I'm
this.
confused.
Yes to protect in Florida, but you are seeing
They can-
60%
Can they
threshold,
kill
as you
their
said,
babies
Lester.
or not?
This would be the first ballot initiative that we've seen anywhere in the
Can they
country since
murder
the overturning
unborn
of Roe
children?
versus Wade that has failed. However,
But it had a higher
the other
Are they free or not?
No.
this high of a threshold
Oh.
here, and I see you want to
What a disaster.
Right, it was 57-58 in Ohio, 57-58
Oh
in
my
Kansas.
God.
I mean, I think we know what the number is.
Oof.
Ironically, I've
What a
talked to
shame.
Republicans who secretly had hoped this would pass.
I can't believe it.
Because now
I know.
Florida elected
No
officials in
spawn
2026,
camping?
which is
Yeah.
their big election year, they will have to face
It's
the
a
voters
live
on
See
a
this?
6-week
Yeah.
ban. And then
74%?
suddenly that will sort of upend
73.
just the state's politics.
Yeah.
But
Ron
there's clearly,
DeSantis actively
He really
campaigned
did.
against this amendment which is
and he used the
interesting.
government power. It's going to create an interesting, there's going to be a
All right.
fascinating.
Minute and a half,
If
boys.
the Democratic Party ever wants to have a chance in Florida,
Minute and
they're
a
going
half.
to get an opportunity.
Well,
Ironically, because this thing went
And
down tonight.
think about how complicated this was for former President Trump. I asked him about this. He said,
How many
it
votes
went
does
too
Jill
far.
Stein have?
And then he was asked about it repeatedly throughout the course of this campaign. Well, how are you gonna vote on this? And he was
158,000.
shifting his positions in the weeks leading up to this very
have
vote.
no idea.
So it sort of underscores the point that Chuck's making. This is a very complicated.
Pretty good.
This issue has Republicans in
That's more than me.
Trump in
Oh,
knots,
yeah.
and now it
You
lives
know?
to see another day in Florida.
That's more than
And
me.
this is why the vice president and her team
It's more
have been
than
pushing
Kanye.
on this issue. It is on the ballot as well in Arizona and
Fucking
Nevada.
Kanye. I thought he was going to run for president
Folks
this
that I'm
time.
talking to think that there is a
Why didn't he run for president? If everybody hadn't went off on him for his whole little religion rant, he probably would have.
We lost because of Squirrel. Do you guys think Peanut influenced the election?
That state's controversial restrictive abortion law. She did it in Georgia with Amber Thurman, and in Florida she talks about it as a place that she is concerned about.
We don't have a ton of time because we're coming up on a poll closing,
Yeah.
but in Iowa, whose polls are going to close, there was a late election poll. Iowa
This
just
thing
had
is
a
fucked. I
very
didn't.
restrictive
I
abortion
gotta go
ban
back. I
passed.
screwed
And
up
this
my
shock poll on the eve of the election
stock
had Kamala Harris
restock
carrying a red
thing.
state. So it's just a very
I
potent
didn't put
issue.
tonics in it.
Read into it, but it is an
Yeah,
I
look at
don't
this, guys.
have any
The
fucking
pollster there,
bags of
Gold Standard
bullets.
pollster, thought
Or not
perhaps the
bags of
abortion
bullets,
issue was motivating these
any weight
older
carry. I have to
white
drop
women, right?
bags
A
of bullets.
demographic we've been watching tonight.
And Chuck, well, let's go to the election.
That's fine.
As
I'm gonna
we,
go back
We get some more poll closings here. We can give a few more characterizations. In just 3 seconds, all of these states
There it is.
that will see their
All right,
polls
let's get it.
closed, and we'll begin counting.
I
the
got this
votes.
open right
is,
here. Let's see it.
State of Texas, which we were just talking about. Donald
Texas.
Trump will win
Ooh,
in the state
Donald.
of Texas when all the votes are counted.
Ooh.
NBC News projects that Donald Trump will also win in North Dakota tonight. South Dakota, same story. That will also go into the Donald Trump column this evening. We move to the state of Wyoming. And 3 electoral votes at stake. Donald Trump, the projected winner in Wyoming. Here's the map. The road to 270 now getting interesting. 154 for Donald Trump, 30 for Kamala Harris.
Wait.
All right,
What?
let's go to the uncalled
Wait, did they
races,
just say
from those 9 o'clock
154?
poll closings, including New York, Colorado, Minnesota. So we still
What?
await results there. But let's go to Michigan. That's the biggie at this hour. Polls closing in Michigan, and it is, wait for it, too early to call. We
Of
will
course.
be waiting for it perhaps into the wee
That's
hours
great.
tonight. Arizona also too early to call.
Which
7
one's
o'clock
Michigan?
In the Mountain West.
Oh,
9
this
o'clock
one.
on the East Coast. The other of the blue wall states, along with Michigan
Refresh.
and Pennsylvania.
I'll give it a
too early
minute.
to call. And speaking of Pennsylvania, too early to
Lame.
call. Starting to see more vote come in,
Kamala's
but
up
we
to
could be
9.
waiting
Going down a
for
lot
that.
today
Same with North Carolina.
during this.
Oh, shit.
I think it's because I'm alone. I usually do this with
Kansas.
Mochi.
We are starting to see the vote come in. We've got 66%
Man, that's close.
counted right now. And
Check
yet,
Texas.
despite the
It's really just a targeting issue. It's like when you're by yourself, all the bullets come to you.
come in, whether it's coming from
Donald.
a Republican stronghold or Democratic stronghold.
It's a Donald
so we see
W.
that disparity, and then you see us say it's too close to call. There's a method
Big
to
Donald
that
W.
madness. Tom, and you've got Georgia up there.
And I'm going to explain the method to the madness, right? The difference right now, 220,000 votes. Trump on top with 66% of the vote in. But Republicans, they
Trump
can't
keeps
even
climbing
get
in
close to
PA.
celebrating just yet. These sort of UFO objects we have
Climbing
circling
up what?
Georgia right now, this is the remaining vote. And the bigger that bubble, that means the more vote that is out. And the more vote that is out right now is in the Atlanta metro region. Remember I told you guys earlier that about
Refresh?
50% of the vote is going to come from this area right here. The election is essentially won or lost in the
Wyoming.
Atlanta metro region because the margins are so close. Every vote
Damn,
matters,
0%,
but because the
they
margins
already
are so
called it for
close,
him.
Trump runs up that rural vote.
They're
the
like, yeah, of
Democrats
course.
run up the urban vote. They run up the suburban counties around Atlanta as well. Let's take a look. Let's see how Atlanta and the surrounding counties are looking, the ring counties. Cobb County. Cobb County, 77% of the vote is
Fuck.
in. Harris slightly overperforming where Biden was in 2020. Let's go over to Fulton County. This is where Atlanta is.
Fox
A
News?
huge county for Democrats here.
Okay.
She's about
Give me
where
a minute.
Biden was, 72% of the vote in. She can catch up and bring that up. Gwinnett County, again, these are the counties that Clinton flipped in 2016, and they just got bluer and bluer. And you can see what's happening here. 16%
I'm
of
gonna
the
try
vote
and
is
find
in,
it.
but she's at 60. Biden was at 58. Let's keep going around here. Douglas County, 84% in.
Damn,
Here
I
we
don't know
go.
where the
Harris
link is.
overperforming in that county. We'll come a little further out.
Oh, it's down at the
Rockdale
bottom?
County.
That's
We'll kind of move a
annoying.
little out the suburbs,
violent.
exurbs, if you
That's
will.
annoying. It's got at the
69%.
bottom. It's
Look
got
at where Harris
Trump
is tonight.
already at
74%.
178.
She's running up that vote
Look
in
at
the Atlanta
that.
metro region. If she
Donald
can
at
keep that momentum
178.
going, she could possibly take the state of Georgia. But again, we got to wait and see. I want to see how Trump is doing in some of his rural counties. 78%, 95% of the vote is in. So 78% in 2020 is at 78 right now. Let me go to
Nostradani.
neighboring Towns County right here, 81, 8180, and then in Union, 8180. He seems to be hitting his marks too. I want to hit some
Patina. Patina. Isn't Patina just like rust?
How'd she win? If we go back, Obama had it in 2012.
Which one's
Tonight, Trump is up. He's building
this
on his
one?
margins from 2020.
I don't know.
That's a good sign for him. Let me see if Peach County is in. Peach County is another one that.
Oh, I had a plate. I just didn't put it in.
Swing County's not a whole lot of voters, but it usually
God damn it.
picks the winner. We like to watch it as we
Chase
go around.
Oliver. Bro, the dark horse.
This is the one of the ones we're watching to see if
Who
Trump
is
can
that?
make inroads with black voters here.
Who the fuck is
Harris
Chase Oliver?
Seems to be the same watermark in 2020. So guys, still very close in Georgia. As
Is
we
this
said,
guy gonna come in and win it?
Close to call. It was about 12,000 votes that separated this in 2020.
He's the
Trump won the
libertarian?
state by about
Damn.
5%.
Oh,
all right.
The state is
all
definitely
right.
changing, and the reason
Finally,
it's changing, it's in this Atlanta
my
metro
people,
region.
the libertarian.
Carolina, I'd love to see.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go for
Let's
it.
see some more.
I mean, these numbers are coming in as we speak.
Yeah, let's hit North Carolina again.
Let's
A
get
lot
it.
of thermal protection.
I'm going to be looking at Mecklenburg
No,
County. This is
not
where Democrats
really.
will drive up the vote. Only 6% is in, but we can see how
It's a big number
Let's see,
compared to
6% is in. I'm not
usually.
going to really draw too much from there, but she's overperforming Biden. We go to the research trial.
Why is that not on my hotbar if it's in my fucking inventory? What happened? What did I do? What did I fucking do?
I know a lot of vote is in over here in
Oh,
Orange County.
whoops.
This is UNC Chapel
I put
Hill.
my gun on 3 somehow. I have no idea how I did that.
High-tech research jobs, affluent suburbs, highly
I'm like,
educated
why don't I have any
California
tonics?
to move to Texas or conditionally
I do
ban
have
voting.
tonics.
Slightly overperforming Biden, not by much, but look, makes a difference when you're talking about a 10,000 vote difference at the end of the day. Right now, the difference is about 41,000 in that county. Trump is on top right now. He's going to run up the rural vote. We can check out some of his counties over here in western
Trump, 81.
North Carolina, Graham County. These are some of the counties that were affected by Hurricane Helene and all
72.
that devastating flooding. 95% in, 81%. In 2020, he was at 79, so kind of overperforming. The big unknown was how many people were going to actually vote in here. And one of the great researchers, Dr. Chris Cooper of North Carolina, political scientist, pointed out to us. He said,
Why is the master
"Listen, this
red
is
when
Trump's
Harris is winning?
area that was affected
It
by
might not
those
be
floods.
updated.
You can have 9
That's really
MAGA
the
houses
reason.
in your house. But if you no longer have a house, trying to get your vote, trying to get your voting location is going to be difficult. They were so concerned about this area that election officials actually changed the rules so you could actually vote in other counties if you couldn't vote in your own county. It looks like turnout's okay. We heard that from Sam Brock. Asheville is that blue dot in the Sea of Red in North Carolina.
Yep.
Again, affected by Hurricane Helene. 55% of the vote there in Buncombe County. Biden was
All right.
at 59.
Let's go ahead and just buy since I'm standing here. It's easier.
Was doing well,
What do I want to do? I think I'm gonna go do.
still a lot of the vote is out. 76% in Wake, like we said. Let me see where else.
I think I'm gonna go do
State that we're still waiting on vote because there are a lot of rural
the
counties.
dogs for a while. Grind out a bit of money.
113 to 178.
Yeah. So what do I need to do, dogs? I need to bring.
Mostly black and Hispanic.
I got slugs. I got this gun.
Donald.
Like that.
Yep. Kamala Harris got more votes, but Donald just, we're just going to give it to him anyway.
I'm actually kind of curious, even though 8% is in here. This was a county that they were looking at to see if Democrats could make
even though he
inroads
got
there.
less votes, it doesn't matter. He still wins.
Only 8% in, guys. But we're going to keep a close eye on North Carolina
just the way it
as
is.
more of this map gets filled out.
All right, so here's where we are. 7 minutes after 9 o'clock in the East Coast. 6 polls have closed now. 6 of 7 battleground states.
That's just the way it is.
Obviously, for the
Alright, so I need slugs up there.
This is so dumb. How we're viewing it through the lens.
And then,
through the exit polls, which are coming in.
these
And
bullets,
I
I
gotta
can
give the
just
which is these numbers don't get finalized until closer to
just
Thanksgiving,
drop
right? So we
most
don't
of
want to
them.
overread
I
into
don't
them, but
think
they
they're
are an
worth
indication of where things stand. And what
much.
I'm looking at, given
Exit
the polls have
polls.
just closed now in the rest of the blue wall states, Michigan and Wisconsin. Here's something
Okay,
interesting.
and
Look at the
then,
youth vote here. This is a little tricky to look at, but I'm going to walk you through it.
Michigan.
Look at Vice President Kamala Harris. She's
Wisconsin.
winning
Which one's
younger voters
the
under the
fuck
age
is
of 30 in
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin, but Donald Trump is right on her heels there with 47%. He is actually winning younger voters in Michigan, 51% to 46%. And if you take a look even further into this, you can see that he is overperforming where he was among young voters in the state of Wisconsin, 47%.
Bro, he's ramping.
That's a double-digit increase from where he was 4 years ago. It's a similar story in Michigan. And I will also tell you it is a similar story in Pennsylvania as well. You see the Michigan numbers here. Similar story in Pennsylvania as well when it comes to young voters. Now, we've been doing a lot of point-counterpoint tonight, so let me fill you in as I walk back to the desk. One of the counterpoints here is in Michigan and Wisconsin, Vice President Harris is doing better with older
Somebody said Destiny
than she
tweeted.
was relative to 2020. So there's
He says it's over. I'm calling it. Harris
We
wins.
saw Gotti Schwartz in Arizona on the campus
I'm
of
sure.
Arizona State University, which gives me personal pain
Bro.
as a graduate at the University of Arizona. But
I mean, if Destiny said
he
so,
may be at
then
ground zero of this very thing that exit poll is showing, which is young voters, young
I mean,
male voters,
he's.
which
That's it,
the
it's
Trump
done.
campaign worked very hard to turn out, responding accordingly. Some of them talking about this Joe Rogan podcast. Can't say I'm a regular listener to it, but he endorsed on the eve of the election.
That's right.
And that was extremely influential.
It could be very influential. And remember, in some of these states, you have same-day voter registration. And who takes the most
Ohio for
advantage of it?
Trump?
Younger voters.
That's right.
You know, it was interesting. A lot of Democrats were very optimistic about some of their chances in some of
that's
the
for crafting.
in the big Midwestern states for House, Senate,
That's
and
just garbage.
presidency because,
Alright, so.
unlike 2020, the Ann
Well,
Arbor
maybe I
kids
can
are
put
gonna
my
vote in
gun away.
Michigan this time.
What do
In
you think?
2020, they voted in their own
Sure.
state. The Iowa City kids in
Maybe go
Iowa
through here and
voted
just
in
clean a bunch of this
and then
shit
this
out and put it on the
time,
other
they were all
tabs.
actually being
Like
evaluated.
make a tab just for weapons.
Pandemic, they were home and more dispersed. Obviously, a big chunk of Michigan voters.
Texas, so they're
Michigan,
calling it for
University of
Texas
Michigan.
Tab
already?
just for
Damn.
And Democrats thought that
Hawaii
could be a
for
secret
Trump.
weapon for them.
Wait, what?
If the young men are
maybe
pulling for Trump,
cosmetics.
then
I
it's
need to get rid of all these bullets too.
Still, there's a massive gender gap.
Thought maybe I'd shoot them all up, but I just got so many of them. I'll just throw them away.
Young men be young women.
And then we've seen as Laura Jarrett joins the table here, and I know you're looking into some of the
If
legal
Trump wins,
issues
can he
that
be
also
considered a
following
woman
ballot
beater?
referenda,
No, he can
including
be
the
considered a
abortion
two-time woman
measure
beater.
that needed a 60% approval, didn't quite get there, 57%.
Stop
so it
two
went
women
down
from being
to defeat
president.
in Florida. But to carry on this conversation, young women have been highly
It's fucking
motivated
hilarious.
by this issue of reproductive rights.
Women of all
I love
ages
it.
motivated, young and old, and
The
obviously
two-time.
it didn't
The
work
two-time.
The threshold was higher there, and we are still looking at a number of states, including
Nice.
places like Arizona, Missouri, Nebraska, South Dakota,
leave this
all of which
now.
would change the right to an abortion to be enshrined in the Constitution, not something that you could take away.
Maybe I'll put all my
easily.
weapons on 3.
It can't just be
That
wiped
seems
away
alright.
when the change
What
of
is too light?
legislature happens. And in those cases, it's a much different situation where you have to just get over a 50% threshold. And so it'll be interesting to see whether they can carry the ballot initiatives in those states, even if the former president is going to win in some of them.
Nebraska's going blue.
Oh, not
Let me
bad.
see.
Ballot measures, even in very red
Not my
states,
metal detector,
have
though.
sometimes passed
It's red.
with 56, 57%
Nope.
of the vote, which, by the way, is what they got in Florida.
There has been a significant
Okay.
shift in the election.
Why are
if these
women
exit
allowed to
polls
vote?
Bear out to what we see right now into how
3.
people feel about abortion rights and abortion access since 4 years ago. I would suspect it is largely,
I
it
don't
is
know.
entirely, probably because of the overturning of Roe versus Wade. In 2020, 51% of people felt
Okay.
that
Yeah.
abortion should be legal in all or most cases. You know what it is now? 66%. That is a significant jump.
Let me just quickly
We're gonna
go back
refresh.
to a second, but I believe we have another call to make, and this is in the state of Mississippi.
Oh.
NBC News now projects that Donald Trump will take all 6 electoral votes and will win in
Damn.
Mississippi.
Damn.
There's a breakdown right now, 21,000.
Which one's
vote
Mississippi?
Difference, 10%
This one?
in, but again, Donald Trump the projected winner in
6%.
Mississippi. Here's where it leaves us in the road to 270. Donald Trump well out in front with 160. Kamala Harris now with 30.
Let's expand the conversation. Simone Sanders Townsend,
Oh,
former
shit.
spokesperson to Kamala Harris. I wonder what you're seeing in these numbers. I assume you have good sources inside the campaign. What are you hearing?
Oh,
Greetings,
shit.
everyone. It's good to see you. So what I am hearing is that Democrats
Oh,
writ
fucking
large,
hell,
every
flare
single
grenades.
Ted Cruz won
battleground
re-election.
That's one dude gave me a shitload
Really?
of flare grenades for some
campaign, so
reason.
the organizers on the ground, they're feeling encouraged by what they're
Alright,
seeing.
3. I'll just put all these guns and
Wisconsin, for
shit.
example, in the 3rd congressional district, there are 2
Blind
large college
Ted.
campuses in that state, and as one individual in Wisconsin told me, that they could flip
Oh,
a house
god damn it.
district
I didn't want to put that
in
there.
Philadelphia. The turnout in Philly specifically has
Oh,
surprised
did I?
Democrats.
Oh,
From
well, Trump's
in
going to win
Baltimore,
Wisconsin.
DC, New
Ooh,
York, there
Trump
were
is
buses that
ramping
left
in
early this
Pennsylvania.
morning of strategists, organizers, even some donors, and they
Oh,
all went down
shit.
and knocked doors in Pennsylvania, in the Philadelphia area, and Philadelphia suburbs. Well, the numbers coming out of places like Temple
He's ramping.
University, where the lines were so long, people were standing in lines for 3 hours. College campus, they had to add more voting machines. They were not expecting that, Democrats, particularly in Pennsylvania, so they're encouraged, what I'm told, by the raw data, emphasis on the raw data they're seeing. So they don't want to speak out of turn, but
Whatever.
feel
All right, let me see this.
Simone, what is worrying the Harris camp right now?
Oh,
Looking
71.
from the other end of the glass.
Well, the lines are very long, and they want people to stay in line, Lester. I'm told that actually in Pennsylvania specifically,
If you're voting for my
celebrities are
candidate, stay in
FaceTiming
line.
in
If
to
you're
the
not,
people who
go
are in
home.
line, encouraging them to stay in line. So the organizers are out there with the phones saying, "Hey, so and so is on the line." There are concerts actually happening. They are looking at Pennsylvania very closely, and as the time that the vice president spent in the state, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I think is also indicative of where they see some gaps. Also, obviously, DeKalb County, in Georgia, the lines, the polling locations were staying open longer because of the bomb threats that were happening there and the evacuations that had to happen, encouraging people to know that it is safe to vote, stay in line, make your voice count. I think they want to ensure, they feel like that they can eke it out if people turn out to vote and stay in line.
Simone, thanks very much.
We want to turn now to Garrett Hakey's at Trump headquarters in West Palm Beach, Florida. And we just got the inside scoop from the Harris campaign. So what are you hearing from the Trump campaign about what they're seeing in these battleground states in the early going?
Savannah, the Trump campaign is very buoyed by what they've seen out of Wisconsin, specifically among black voters. They're pointing to our exit poll, which shows Donald Trump more than doubling his support among African Americans in Wisconsin. I can't emphasize enough how much this has been an emphasis for the Trump campaign to try to improve their margins. If they got blown out with African American voters in 2020, if they were able to move the percentage that they got from 8% to 10, 12, 15, in this case, based on these early exit polls, getting 20% in Wisconsin, that's the kind of thing that could make a huge difference in a race that might be decided by 15 or 20,000 votes in those states. They spend heavily on television, they spend heavily on African American media, trying to find celebrity validators for Donald Trump, and particularly to reach out to young men. If Trump pulls this off tonight or in the days to come, those small changes at the margins among African American men, I think, will be a huge part of the story.
Look at it again.
All right, Garrett, thank you. I want to go over to Peter Alexander at Harris headquarters, Washington, D.C. And how's the feeling there? What's the vibe?
Well, there's still a celebratory feel here right now. They're waiting for any particular data points that they
Trump
can
is at
know if it's a good
195.
indication or not. The Harris campaign, individuals still watching behind closed doors.
He's at 190. Holy shit.
Tonight, a lot of the donors.
So he needs less than 100 more.
Hotel here in Washington, D.C. watching as well before they arrive here a little bit later this evening. The data points that they are pointing to right now is potentially some good indicators. One
You're not
comes
that
out of
far ahead.
Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, specifically as it relates to those
Ooh,
three
some of these are
wards with the largest
close.
densities of Puerto Rican voters right
Look
now.
at Virginia.
That they say in those particular wards that they saw as of 5 o'clock, 3 hours before the polls closed, they had already reached the same number in terms of turnout as they had 4 years ago. Which is to say that they believe that they are exceeding the numbers in the past. They think that's a good indication there.
Virginia's usually
the
blue.
thought that Simone Sanders was just sharing a short time ago.
Not right now.
Hearing again about those college campuses right now.
Is it going to be a civil war?
UNLV, all the way to a
You think
series
so?
of separate campuses in
Yep,
Philadelphia
we're doomed.
and South Temple.
Fucking doomed. Oh, not there. Shit, what am I doing?
State as well, and she was talking
If this map
about
holds,
what
it's
is
a
really
landslide.
key to the campaign right now in these sort of late evening hours, even after the polls have closed. They don't close if you were already in line. It's a message that they're sharing right now, FaceTiming in Jennifer Garner to be more among others to keep those folks in line.
All right, so we need to get all these farmers on their own tab, huh?
After the Diddy list gets announced, Trump tries to push it to happen. All of the people that rallied against him
You can add Louisiana there.
puts
Just
him in
22%
jail.
of the vote counted, but again, the margin expected to be rather large.
Yep.
So here's the map for those watching at home. The South, of course, reliably read for Donald Trump.
That's right.
and
You
at this
put your
early
political
hour,
opponents
he
in
is so
jail
far
now.
out in front, but we await
Right.
those key battleground
Yeah,
states.
bro.
And I
Like
think we've
debate,
got
like we don't
Tom
do that.
over there talking
Yeah,
the great
Saddam
state
style.
of
Well, not
Ohio,
no.
battleground.
Semi-battleground, right? We
That's
got
too
exit
much.
poll data out of Ohio as well. 17 electoral votes, about 55% of the vote is in. Trump is on top by about 266,000 votes. I want you to remember that number. Write it down if you can. I know it's kind of a big number, 266,000. The reason why I want to highlight that difference because
Okay.
punch up Ohio.
Oh wait, I need my fast armor if I'm going up there.
How fast voting data is coming in. Again, you know I love going to this. The remaining vote that's there.
There we go. Fast
Here's the
armor.
issue. The remaining votes in the Democratic counties like Franklin, which is Columbus, Cuyahoga, Cleveland. Look at the numbers here. In Cuyahoga, look how many votes are still out. 377,000. She's on top by 71%. Let's see how she did compared to Biden 4 years ago.
All right.
66%. So she's overperforming
doing better.
Cuyahoga, and there's still a lot of that vote that's out. Let's go down to Franklin County. It holds the capital of Ohio, Columbus, 68%. Overperforming there with about 60% of the vote that's in. And then again, 266,000 remaining. So just those two counties, we're talking about more than 500,000 votes. And that's way bigger than the spread for the entire state.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean,
Fucking
when you talk about
sting,
some
man.
of her overperforming
Digging
in
in
those
the
areas,
top
the
of my
reason
head.
we expect Ohio likely goes red, but let's talk about the
73%.
Senate race there. Because we have the control of Senate hanging in the balance right now, and it hangs on this Senate race. Bernie Moreno, the car dealer, versus Sherrod Brown, the incumbent. What do you think?
Justice for Peanut.
Here, only 74,000. So what does that mean? That means the Republican in this race is underperforming Trump. There could be a split ticket issue here. Again, way too early, 56% of the vote in. But look, the difference here is 74,000. Remember that number I was telling you to remember? It was over 200,000. So that means that Trump is overperforming right now. Bernie Moreno is underperforming the Republican candidate. The incumbent is still down.
Well,
but again,
there's
remember what I told you,
there's
there's a lot
fuckers
of that vote that's out in
around,
Cleveland, in
man.
Columbus.
Who
I'm gonna
else
look in one
who
more
killed
spot
those
here. Let's
guys?
get back to the president's race in Hamilton County, which is
But
Cincinnati.
these
She's
guys
at
are here,
62%.
so
Biden was at
this ain't go very
57.
far,
Again,
man.
look, this
You know
could
what I
be some
should
of
have
the early
done?
vote that's come in. It could be some of that blue mirage. Again, we're
The blue
purposely slow early,
mirage.
but I'm gonna get back
People
over to
are
you
talking
guys
about
for
red
this
mirage.
Tom, we got a projection
Oh,
in the
here we go.
state of Rhode Island. NBC News
Rhode
projects
Island?
that Kamala Harris will win in Rhode Island when all the votes are
Ooh.
counted.
so important.
Electoral votes for her.
What about the next one?
Here's where the breakdown is: 31,000.
74%, yep.
74% of the vote in, but again,
Wow.
Kamala Harris, the projected winner there. Let's pull up the map. The road
34 to
270, that brings
6.
Harris now
Oh, sorry, 34 to
electoral
168.
votes. Donald Trump still well out in front with 168. Remember, 270 is the prize that we're working our way toward. We'll take a break here. It's 9:30 in the East. The vote counting coming in. Our decision desk standing by to make more projections just ahead.
Fuck.
Damn close. Yeah, it is. This is a prime example of the red mirage, to be honest. Oh, maybe it is. Like, I mean, this is the way I see it, right? I mean, like, I should. This is what I'm saying. I'm trying to do. Like, what I should have done is I should have bought one of those white dudes for Harris shirts, and I should have got a Donald Trump hat, and I should have worn both. And at the end
same
of the day, I
time.
should have lit one of them on fire.
While you're still wearing it. Yes. Yes, that's
Like
what
the
you
one
should
that
have done.
loses. I really should have done. I don't know why I didn't think to do that. That's so stupid.
NBC News Daily is #1 for afternoon news across all
Yeah,
of
Trump is down
I'm
by a
Morgan
bit,
Radford.
I'm Vicky Wynn.
but he's down by less.
What's happening around the world
Israel's military is building up there along the border.
and what matters here at home.
New numbers are out today showing more encouraging signs for our economy. Let's zero in on exercise. We know we're supposed
Look at the
to be
popular
doing
vote.
it. What does it do for
Trump
our
is
health?
ahead with
What
popular
needs
vote
to
by 3
change for
million.
social media to be a safer place.
NBC News Daily.
Yeah.
Weekdays from 12 to 4 on NBC News Now.
Nice to have you along with us, whether you're at home or on our
Yep.
plaza. We're just glad you're with us this morning.
Ooh, 9 p.m. So there's a few more after 9. Nevada, Utah, Arizona. Who do you think will win? I said Trump's going to win for
Welcome back
months.
on this election night. The road to 270.
Yeah.
You can see Donald Trump out front with 168 to 34 for Kamala Harris. Let's show you how we can characterize some of the states right now. These are states that haven't been called.
Do you think Trump's going to leave
our
NATO?
Characterization on that is it's too early to call. More than half the vote in there as well. Let's look at Ohio. We were speaking that a moment ago. 17 electoral votes, not considered to be a battleground nonetheless. Look at it, that's too early to call right now. Also, Colorado, too early to call. Kamala Harris
For sure.
leading now with over 100,000 votes.
Donald
In
ahead by
Iowa,
1 million in
Kamala
Texas.
Harris,
Goddamn.
Donald Trump, that is too early to call as well.
Midwest states, but for him, he has to win one of them. If he wins Michigan and he flips North Carolina, holds Georgia, he can win any of these two out west, either Nevada or Arizona, put him over the top. But if he can only win Wisconsin, I'm going to take Nevada away. He has to win Arizona to get to 272. So you can see it's going to be a long night for us. but every state sort of leads to a domino effect, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we were watching Ohio, because if he were not to win a state like Ohio, which he won the last 2 presidential elections, his whole map changes. Bounce back to you.
Well, right now, so far tonight, we haven't had any big shockers.
Well, he won Ohio.
But let's talk about Pennsylvania. There's a reason that the campaigns spent more money there, spent more time there. It may well, at the end of this night, or perhaps it will be Saturday morning, like in 2020, it will all come down to Pennsylvania.
It very well could come down to Pennsylvania. 19 electoral votes. It is the
We're about to find out. Trump won
battleground
NC?
prize out there.
Where's
and
NC?
Part of why we're watching states like Ohio so closely, like North Carolina,
Oh,
as well,
North
particularly
Carolina.
in the suburbs, is to test how those counties in those collar
Let me
counties in
refresh.
Pennsylvania might go. Remember, President Biden won Pennsylvania not because he won the Philadelphia
No,
County
it doesn't have it
area,
yet.
but because he was able to really drive up the vote among white working class voters in those collar counties. One more point just to mention as we watch all of these returns come in. When President Biden was at the top of the ticket, a state like North Carolina,
I'll see Polly Market.
You
73.
the fact that we're talking about it right now, the fact that there's been so much play in North Carolina, that former President Trump spent so much time there in recent days, underscores the fact that they have tried to open more paths, and we'll have to see if that was effective.
I want to ask a little bit about Michigan. We haven't really
I
talked much about
didn't bring med
Elizabeth
kits.
Warren
I
does,
didn't bring any med
effective
kits.
vote,
Fuck.
you know, in
I think it
Detroit
definitely
and
demoralized Kamala
parts
Harris
of
voters.
Michigan. Are we getting any read there at all?
Well, listen, it's going to be something that matters, right? Because we saw that.
Great. Fucking wonderful. Oh my god, I'm so happy about this. Let me up. Fuck.
You saw Vice President Harris, as she was on the campaign trail just in the last few days here, begin her rally speech, one of them in Michigan, by referencing, of course, Israel, Gaza, what was happening. She doesn't typically start off her campaign speeches, her
I
stump
need
speech.
a med kit.
That's right. She has again and again, she has faced down protesters who heckle. She typically says something along the lines of, "You have a right to be heard, so do I," and I'm speaking now, which is a line that she's become sort of known for at this point. But the other piece,
I hate that
when you look
line.
at this, Michigan
I'm
is a place
speaking
that's
now.
critical for her, as Tom has just laid out in the map. It is also a
I'm
place where she
speaking.
started this
He is
shift
dropping
in the last
fast.
few days on her closing
Woman
argument, moving away
Not
from
yet.
this idea that
speaking.
Donald Trump was sort of looming large as this threat to democracy, this ominous shadow hanging over America, and shifting away from saying his name at all, calling him the other guy, trying to make him seem small, unserious, Lester.
All right, we have another call to make, and this is a pretty big one.
Which one?
The state of New York. And not necessarily a surprise, but NBC.
That asshole, he's already stolen it, I'm sure. What the hell? What the hell?
Ouch.
What did I just fucking deleted it?
That
I
must have
pushed the
been all
wrong
the
button.
contractors
God
that he
damn
scammed
it.
in New York over 30 years. They must have all voted against him.
With 62 now.
Let's continue this conversation about
Yeah.
Michigan, about young voters, because this issue
They're
that
probably
you
pissed
raised,
about that, right?
Israel, this is a very potent issue with young
That
voters
guy's
and
taking
many
my shit
students. And
already
we've
because
seen,
he was there. He was.
struggling with that. We've seen ads by
They were the ones that,
groups
yeah,
in
true.
Michigan
They were the
trying
ones that killed
to,
Peanut.
Fuck
bring
me.
up that kind of dissent that is going on. It's very interesting. In the primary, there was an uncommitted vote.
So I'm kind of butthurt
against
about it.
President Biden, 100,000 people voted uncommitted in the primary. The margin in 2020 was 154,000. So
Yeah.
this is a constituency that very much matters.
Absolutely. And with young voters right now, we just had Holly, you brought this up on the data wall a little bit ago. Trump is leading young
Yeah.
voters. And again, that gender gap is playing out right here. It's large with voters under 30. Men 59% going for Trump, 39% going for Harris. Women 54%
78%? No way.
44% Trump. He's continuing to close those margins. The other thing that's interesting
No, bro.
about Michigan, of course, there's a 52,000 person campus, University of Michigan. Back in 2016, Trump only won by about 11,000 votes. On that campus, I actually
Yeah.
anecdotally heard students energizing other students by saying, if only a fifth more of this campus were to have come out, it could have made a difference.
Yeah.
So what does that look like right now? Who
I
does
don't
that mean
care.
did better
I
on
just
those campuses that we start
I'm
to see those
angry
margins be eat away at?
that
Call back in
at myself
2016. Sorry, Hallie, you'll recall in
for
2016.
not buying med kits. I deserve to lose all that shit to that fucking asshole up there that's gonna steal it.
In Michigan, and so what we've seen from the Harris
Because it's all sellable. All I'm doing this for is sellable, so it's like
has certainly been
he's gonna have them now. So
and so the Democrats have tried to learn from the mistakes.
And he'll send me back my shit I don't care about. And he'll feel good about himself. Like, oh, I sent him back his pack. But what he really did was stole all my stuff.
79%.
Also losing some of the Jewish vote, for example, in Pennsylvania and Florida. We've heard about that anecdotally.
It doesn't even let me load it.
It's about the bottom of the hour. We can do some race.
Damn, it's going up by a bit.
Well, let's put it up there. Let's see what we've got in terms of results, and the votes are being counted in Michigan, one of those key Midwest battlegrounds. It is too early to call. That's just about a little over 10% of the vote, but now you've got an eye on what we've got.
77 Trump.
Hour ago, way too early to call there. It may well be days before we're able to call that one. Wisconsin, another in the industrial Midwest, too early to call. Just starting to get the votes counted. Pennsylvania.
Fast enough that maybe, I don't know, but he was working in that area, so it's like,
that's a lot.
he's going to see it, he's going to grab it, and be like, oh,
at this hour and staying
what's
down
this?
south in the Sunbelt state of Georgia, which
As if I wouldn't be coming back for it or something.
Former President Trump badly wants to get back into that red column. That is
that 77%
he doesn't
betting
care.
numbers?
Yeah. So here is the road to 270.
Damn, 62 to 168.
That a candidate needs to win the White House, and that is where we are in the early going.
I always wonder what it looks like from the other side, from the candidates when they're doing the same.
I don't have my bread on a hot tea anymore either.
I'm trying to
That
figure out where you can be
fucking
optimistic,
bugs me.
you know, when you don't have the pressure of people looking at you.
You want a fun fact? Fun fact alert?
We love it.
The last election was decided in 4 states by approximately 80,000 voters. You could fit those voters into Cowboy Stadium. Wow.
Okay. Let me tell you.
Wow.
That is a good. That's
My
a good
husband's
nugget.
going to be very mad at me that I didn't
brought
say
up the
Eagles
Cowboys.
Stadium, but it wasn't the right number for the stadium. I tried.
You stick with any stadium you want.
Yeah. You got next to Paul?
He's sad about the link. Yeah, I do. And this is a more broad look at the.
Just a minute.
Well, Republicans were doing really well. Stay online, don't get offline, and vote. Make sure you get
on the internet.
We're gonna have a big victory tonight.
We are online, boys.
Doing really well. Stay online. Don't get.
I don't know what the fuck. Like, I mean, couldn't you just retake that and say the right word? I don't know. Yeah, instructions unclear. Exactly.
Put a little asterisk next to that. We're going to talk about that more in just a second. Second here, 31% of voters say the economy is the most important issue to them. That is typically what we would see in other elections. It's what we've seen in the past. I would also note that just because a candidate leads on the top issue doesn't mean that they would win the election. Abortion is right there at 14%. Immigration trailing at 11%. And why do I bring that up? That was key to former President Trump's close. When you look at the vote breaks for this, which just means who people supported when they said this was their top issue, on State of Democracy,
myself over
voters
a little. Maybe he didn't
Kamala
see
Harris. So she leads on that issue. More people who said that democracy was their
Oh,
most important
fucking
thing backed Kamala Harris
Yeah,
than
no
did
shit,
Donald
because
Trump.
of January
She is also
6th.
leading on abortion as well. It's the flip when you look at economy and immigration. More people who said that the economy or immigration were their most important issue backed former President Trump. That is not altogether shocking, right? Those issues, economy, inflation, immigration, it largely tracks with what we had been seeing over the course of many months since Kamala Harris got into this race in public polling. But here's what's interesting, and let me walk back to the desk with you to talk through some of these democracy issues here. This is a funny question, state of democracy, because there are Republicans who believe that the state of democracy is an existential threat, largely because of the election fraud lies that Donald Trump talks about. There are Democrats who believe that the state of democracy is under threat because of former President Trump himself.
Damn it, why did I bring so much shotgun?
So this is a tricky one. It's not like it cuts obviously one way or the other. So there's
Got my shit
there's some
back at
unpacking
least.
to do.
It's
That's
a Rorschach
the
test.
aspect.
What is the
In
state of
what?
democracy?
That's exactly
It
right.
probably would be better framed as, what do you think the state of the country is? Do you think that this is a high-stakes election? Do you think it's a do or die? Is it existential? I think that's what people are responding to, and perhaps why we see that being the top issue.
Well, and it's so
Google,
mirrored
I'll
in what
open
we
up the
saw
Google
in
one again.
closing
Sorry.
arguments of both of
You know
those
that fucking
campaigns. You
bread.
saw Vice President Kamala Harris try to argue that Donald Trump
way
is a
too
threat to
much
democracy.
bread.
You saw Donald Trump make
Yep.
arguments that his political rivals were the quote-unquote enemy from within. And so it is a Rorschach test, and it also just speaks to why, as we watch these states come in, the battlegrounds seem to be very sharply divided, as our polls indicate.
Right track, wrong wrong track always kind of leaves you with that question: are we judging a president, or are we judging just the overall sense of
Trump is gaining in
life these
PA?
days?
Absolutely, and the fact that you have this significant majority saying that the country's headed in the
Yeah,
wrong
a bit.
direction.
You know what it is? It's interesting because we haven't talked that much about that thing that happened this summer where Joe Biden had a terrible debate and he was expected for 18 months to be the candidate and then he wasn't. Do we have any indication in any of these early numbers how Kamala Harris is performing compared to how he may have performed? I mean, it's a hypothetical.
I would say favorability is probably what gets us there most
I'd
closely.
say Kamala
I don't
Harris
think
is
we have
doing
those
better.
graphics ready to pull up, but Joe Biden, if my memory serves, is something at like 41% favorable based in exit polls, which is a
kind
question
of a
that was
disaster.
asked. She
It's
is
not
at
even a
something like,
question.
I want to say 48%, so she is, or 49%. She's outpacing where both Joe
I wanna
Biden
see her
and
lap
Donald
him by
Trump were. But
100.
Savannah, I'm so glad you brought this up. We called Delaware like an hour
she even
ago,
do that
right?
at
Joe
this point?
Biden's home state, and it made me think about what a different race this would look like, how different tonight would look if Joe Biden were still on the ticket. Vice President Harris has done this thing where she's tried to both distance herself from President Biden. She told me in our interview just a couple of weeks ago, Joe Biden is not on the ticket. Like, I am the one who is running on the Democratic ticket, which she's right. She is on the top of the ticket. But at the same time, she has not distanced herself in a super clear way from a lot of his various policies. She has said that she feels some loyalty to him.
Well, the ads that have been run to great effect in a lot of these battleground
What
states
the
tie
fuck?
Kamala
What the
directly
fuck?
to Joe Biden.
That was all lag.
Biden is a clear drag on the Harris ticket.
One of the biggest challenges for her campaign,
Fuck
including
me.
in her interview with Hallie, has been asked
That's
over
bullshit.
and over again.
That's
how
bullshit.
Kamala Harris
Got a
differently
0% in the
than
primary.
President Joe Biden. She
She would
struggled
have never
to
had
answer
a
that.
chance
in
if it
part,
wasn't
I'm
for
told,
being
because
on
personally
Biden's
she
ticket.
did not want to betray him, but it
Yeah,
has
bro,
been
she got
something
kicked
that's
out
been a
so
challenge.
fast.
She also cited, I think it was your interview, she cited history, the fact that
Let's be
typically
real.
That's
vice
bullshit.
presidents,
That I hate that lag.
Yeah, that's right. That was our colleague Peter Alexander, I think, if I'm remembering
if it
that
wasn't-
one
if it wasn't
correctly.
for
It always happens right to screw you over. It just pulls you right back
Listen,
into
typically
them.
vice presidents don't go after, their boss, if you will, their president. She talked about this issue of loyalty, but at the same time, she also says, my presidency will not be a continuation of the Biden
The problem that she had was when asked
This is
specifically,
horse
I
shit.
believe
I don't
ABC
want to
program,
fucking keep
what would
running
you
back
do
to
differently? She said
for
nothing
lag.
comes to mind. And boy, that Trump
keeping in mind
campaign.
her campaign's been, what, 108,
Well, right, but that's
days,
about, that question's coming when you have an unpopular incumbent. We want to go to NBC's Sam Brock. He's in Asheville, North Carolina, where I understand the counting is wrapping up. What are you hearing?
There it goes again.
Savannah, it's done. Look, I have it fresh off the presses right here from Buncombe
Movement
County. The official results are in.
synchronization too
First of all,
slow with
they had a
high RTT.
73.69% turnout, which is almost their record high. It was 78 back in 2020. But considering everything that happened in Western North Carolina about a month ago, this is extraordinary. And the results are almost exactly the same as they were 4 years ago
It's
as
not
well.
my internet.
60 to 38 in favor of Kamala Harris.
The stream is
This county, which
just
is about
fine.
140,000 votes. It was 59-38 back in 2020. This was not, however, your
Nah, fuck it. Look, it's doing it. It's doing it.
grandmother's democracy process, being sort of
It's
a
like,
fly on the wall to watch all.
if there was
happen.
enemies there,
Walk
I'd be
with me
dead
here for a
right
second.
now.
So these are the tabulations that came out. These receipts, guys, were so long. They were strewn across this entire table. I watched as the board went through.
Now I have to
line
go
item by
back
line
and
item
hope
to
that that guy
authenticate
didn't
for the
steal my
unofficial
shit.
results. There's basically a caravan of cars that comes in. They're all holding from each of the 80 precincts these thick orange cases.
And
that
I
have
was
flash
fully
drives in them.
loaded
Bobby, who
too.
I'm told has been here with Buncombe County for generations, a 70-something-year-old woman, takes the flash drive out, comes in here and brings it into this room. In the room, it's unencrypted, and so they actually get the data up there and they upload it directly to the county site and then to the state site from this room, and then all of the day of votes get tabulated over in these machines. Fascinating to watch. It is actually now done. Let me send it back to you.
All right, Sam, thank you very much. We've got a projection to tell you about. The state of Illinois, Kamala Harris, as expected, takes it.
Kamala
so that's
Harris.
a Midwest hold for Kamala Harris and the Democrats. Let's look at the
40%.
breakdown here. Half the vote in,
Ooh, he got
and
his
it looks
ass
like it will
beat.
be an easy victory as expected. And so we can fill out one more state on our road to
Ooh,
270 map.
81.
The state of
They're way
Illinois
behind.
going to Kamala Harris. Let's go to Tom Yamas. You're in North Carolina, where we
rigged.
just heard straight from the
I don't
horse's
mind the
mouth.
deaths that are my fault, but when it's
right
doing
there,
this,
Asheville has been
like
through
that,
so
what it
much
just
with
did,
Hurricane
and threw me
Helene,
back
and-
to get
and
hit
Sam
by the
Brock had
dogs,
the
that's,
poll
I
results in
don't,
his hot little hands.
But were you calling him a horse? That's like, I'm not sure if you were or not.
it's not,
Sam's a tall drink of water, but he's
those
no
aren't
horse.
fair
He's a handsome
deaths.
man.
Those are,
So listen, along the lines of from what he was
but
reporting,
you still
and I
lose
just
shit.
checked out
You
those
still lose all the
Hurricane
same
counties.
stuff.
We can show you
It's
the ones
like,
that were affected by the floods.
there's nothing you can do about it, though.
Let me go. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. So these were all the
Happens
counties,
all
the
the
13
time,
counties that were
especially in
affected
the
by floods, where
or
people could
the
vote
new
in
event.
other
It's
parts of
been
the state
happening.
if they weren't able to vote in
Not
their home
just to
county.
me.
It's interesting. I was going through the numbers. It doesn't look like there's any kind of drop off there. That's actually better news for the president because there are more Trump voters out there in the western part of the state, with the exception of the blue dots like Asheville, places like that. Here's where a lot of the vote is still out. Charlotte, Mecklenburg. Look, Trump is on top right
I
now.
gotta get my
statewide.
shit, and then I'm gonna like
Mecklenburg is
drop
the place
out
where
and
Democrats,
fucking
I'm going to keep going
reload.
back to Mecklenburg when we talk about North Carolina. This is Charlotte and then the surrounding suburbs. They
Great.
need to drive up the vote here. It is a majority minority
And
county.
this gets you
Hispanics
killed.
and African Americans, they have to drive up the numbers here. When they lose races like Senate races, it's because the turnout is not where it needs to be.
Trump is almost
Charlotte.
Oh, yeah, there's the enemies that are going to kill me
There
now.
is vote in other places. Wake
Next time
County,
I
this is
do
the
it.
capital. Raleigh, part of the research triangle. You can see Kamala Harris slightly
Next time
overperforming
I-
President Biden with 76% of the vote. Whoops, that was a mistake. Let me go back to North Carolina. Here we go. Right over here. 81% of the vote is in. 81%. Let's see how she did compared to Biden. Slightly overperforming there, and just over where UNC Chapel Hill is. Slightly overperforming
That's not fair.
there. Here's one thing, though, that Republicans have something to possibly celebrate. This is Nash County. This is Governor Roy Cooper's county. This is where he's
Need to
from.
reload
It's
this
sandwiched
fucking
between
game.
Raleigh,
It's just
Wake County and the North Carolina Black Belt, where you have those counties with high percentages of African American voters. It usually, almost always in the last few elections, has
It's
picked
not-
the winner.
that's
2012
not cool,
Obama,
man.
Trump flips it. Biden it didn't go. It went with Biden in 2020. That wasn't a correct pick. But today, Trump is on top, and you can see that's good news for him, considering that
Kansas
Biden took it in
changed?
2020.
Really?
We're also watching New Hanover. This is
Ooh,
Wilmington.
Kansas
You have
about-
a lot of
yeah.
people have moved to the east coast of North Carolina, the coastal communities
Damn.
here. Only 5% in, but this is also one of those counties that has always picked the winner, North Carolina. Not enough vote in to even compare it.
It's like a full load of shit. It's like a half hour of my time.
Again, sometimes
Just
the
ate.
forgotten metro
Ate
area, but
it.
huge population center for North Carolina.
New
A lot of the
Mexico? Let me
historically
see.
black universities are here as well.
Ah.
Greensboro,
And now it's like
County, 55% in. Let's see how she's doing compared
ridiculously
to Biden.
fucked.
50.1.
What the
So
fuck?
this is pretty good.
What the
I want to see how
fuck?
Trump's doing, though, in some of the rural counties where he has to drive up the vote. Robeson, look, only 23% in. He's overperforming there. I want to go a little closer to Charlotte. Union
First-time
County
voter voted
seems
for
to be
Trump?
doing okay. Again, this is along the southern border,
Probably
right
down
above South
3%
Carolina.
Trump.
Seems to
Ooh.
be holding his own. Anson, 92% in. This is actually a big flip. Let me see how this looked like in 2016. So this is interesting. Clinton won in
Ooh.
16. Biden won in 2020 with
Trump.
92% of the vote in.
Damn.
Trump is on top right now. Again, not a large county you're going to see. There's only
Wow.
about 10,000 votes here. But we're kind of reading the tea leaves and
flipped
seeing
it,
where
he
everything's
did.
at so far. Again,
Damn.
statewide, 63% in. This is the only battleground state that Trump won in 2020. That's why we're watching it so close. It was very close. It was his slimmest margin.
Where's he at now?
63% of the vote is in. We're still watching and waiting here in
61%.
North Carolina. As soon as we can make a call against
It's doing it.
That's almost 200K
There's
people.
no way. I'm just gonna die again when we get there. You guys probably already took my shit.
Results to read to you right now. These are
Damn.
ballot measures. We saw the abortion measure go down to defeat in Florida. It had a 60% threshold in New York.
It'd be nice